You're listening to Stitched to the Alpha, written by D.N. Leo, narrated by Jessica Lee. She hit a billionaire wolf shifter with a stroller. He decided she was his. Indy Voss has 3 rules for survival. 1. Never stay in one place longer than 6 months. Never let anyone get close. 3. Never, ever hit powerful shifters with baby strollers containing business-savvy wombats. Guess which rule she just broke? Archer Gray is a billionaire alpha with a problem. His wolf is rejecting his arranged mate. He's 2 days from a gala that will seal a corporate alliance, and some seamstress just destroyed his very expensive business shirt just before the meeting. The logical response? Commission her to fix it. The insane response? Realize she might be his fated mate. This is an original story, written exclusively for the audience of this channel. The only way to support this channel is to like, share, and comment below. Your engagement helps keep these warm-hearted shifter romances with lots of heart and laughter coming. Want your story idea featured next? Comment below. DN Leo reads every comment you write. Also, as requested by many of you, yes, there is a hilarious bonus chapter featuring Vince's job interview at Thorn Fashion. Link in the description and pinned in the first comment below. Now, let's begin and see how this seamstress is about to stitch together the messiest happily ever after you've ever seen. Chapter 1. Indy pushed the stroller faster, ignoring the suspicious rustling from inside the covered compartment. I can calculate optimal route efficiency, Vince's muffled voice announced from beneath the gingham fabric. We're taking the scenic path when the direct route would save us 4 minutes and 37 seconds. We're not having this conversation again, Indy muttered, keeping her head down as she navigated through the Saturday morning crowd on Main Street. We absolutely are having this conversation. The last time I let you navigate unsupervised, we ended up in that artisanal soap shop for 45 minutes while you debated between lavender and eucalyptus. That was one time. It was a gazillion times, Vint corrected from inside the stroller. His dark nose pressed against the mesh window. I've documented each incident. Would you like me to email you the spreadsheet? Indy rounded the corner onto Chestnut Street, where the Saturday farmers market was in full swing. The scent of fresh bread mixed with coffee from the corner cafe, and somewhere a street musician was playing something that sounded almost like jazz, if jazz had given up halfway through. Sunshine filtered through the oak trees lining the sidewalk, dappling the brick pavement with gold. She hated how much she liked this town, how the hardware store owner knew her name, how the bakery lady saved day-old croissants for Adelaide. Hazel, she corrected herself. Hazel, the name she'd given her daughter in this version of their life. The pang hit her chest, sharp and familiar. 72 hours. That's how long they had before they'd pack up again, find another town, another name, another reason to keep running. You're thinking about leaving again, Vint observed. Your pace just increased by 0.3 miles per hour. I'm thinking about groceries, Indy lied, waiting for the pedestrian light to change. The crosswalk button was sticky under her finger. Someone had covered it with a sticker that said, "Press for magic." We need wine, Vint said. The good kind, not that $7 swill you bought last time. That $7 swill is called having a budget. That $7 swill is called giving up on joy. The stroller shifted as Vint repositioned himself. Also cheese. The manchego from that specialty shop on 5th. And hide it from Hazel because last time she ate an entire wheel and threw up in my favorite blanket. She's 5. 5-year-olds eat cheese. 5-year-olds eat reasonable amounts of cheese. Your daughter treats dairy like a competitive sport. Indy checked her phone. 10:47 a.m. School pickup was at 11:15. Plenty of time. We have precisely 25 minutes until school pickup, Vint announced, somehow reading her mind despite being inside a stroller. Accounting for walking speed, checkout time, and your tendency to get distracted by fabric in shop windows, we're cutting it dangerously close. We have time. We don't have time. We never have time. You operate in a state of perpetual temporal optimism that defies basic mathematics. Big words for a wombat in a stroller. Accurate words for a wombat who's about to miss school pickup because someone refuses to acknowledge reality. Indy's phone buzzed. Calendar reminder, Hazel pickup, 25 minutes. Shit, she started running. I said we don't have time, Vint yelled from inside the stroller as it bounced over the brick pavement. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Indy rounded the corner at full speed, the stroller wheels squeaking in protest. The man stepped off the curb at precisely the wrong moment. Time slowed. Indy saw him clearly. Expensive suit, phone pressed to his ear, the kind of distracted confidence that came from never expecting obstacles. She yanked the stroller hard left. Her shoulder clipped his arm. He stumbled backward, phone flying from his hand in a perfect arc. The stroller wheel caught on something. His belt. No. His shirt. The fabric made a terrible ripping sound, like the universe tearing in half. The man windmilled, caught himself on a parking meter, and stood there looking down at his chest, where his shirt now hung open from shoulder to belt line like a very expensive theater curtain. "Are you kidding me?" he said. "I'm so sorry," Indy gasped, still gripping the stroller handles. "You stepped out. I didn't see. I was on the sidewalk." He picked up his phone, checked the screen, and looked at his shirt with the expression of someone calculating exactly how much this was going to cost him. "I have a meeting in 45 minutes. "Right, yes, meeting." Indy looked around frantically. They were standing outside the tourist trap souvenir shop that sold T-shirts with cartoon crabs that said, "I got crabby in Sunshine Cove," and Hawaiian shirts that looked like they'd been rejected by a tiki bar. "There's a shop right there. I'm not wearing a shirt with a cartoon crab. The Hawaiian print is actually kind of—" "No. Fair enough." "My shop," Indy said suddenly. "My seamstress shop. It's around the corner. I can fix this. 5 minutes, I swear." The man, tall, dark-haired, built like someone who had both money and a personal trainer, looked at her with clear skepticism. 5 minutes. Maybe 6. You just hit me with a stroller. Technically, you stepped into my path. I was on the sidewalk. And now you're on the street having an argument with a stranger about fault determination when you could be in my shop getting your shirt fixed. Indy grabbed the stroller handle. "Follow me or wear the crab? Your choice." He followed. The shop was exactly where she'd left it, squeezed between the vintage bookstore and the coffee roaster, with a hand-painted sign that said "Stitch and Time" in letters that desperately needed repainting. Indy unlocked the door, shoved the stroller inside, and flipped on the lights. "Cozy," the man said in a tone that suggested cozy was not a compliment. "It's a shop, not a cathedral." Indy locked the door behind them and moved to her workstation. Shirt off. He blinked. "Excuse me? I can't fix it while you're wearing it, unless you want needle holes in your chest. He glanced around the shop like he was considering his options. "Is there somewhere private? There's a changing screen in the corner. Try not to knock over the dress forms." The stroller rustled. The cover flipped back. Vint emerged, tiny reading glasses perched on his nose, looking like a very judgmental accountant who'd been wrongfully imprisoned. "Finally," Vint announced. "I was suffocating in there. Also, we're now 18 minutes from school pickup, which means we're officially in crisis territory." The man froze, stared at Vint, looked at Indy, looked back at Vint. "Is that a wombat?" he asked slowly. "Obviously," Vint replied, adjusting his glasses. "And you're a human in need of emergency tailoring services due to poor spatial awareness. Shall we move past the obvious observations?" "It talks." "He talks," Indy corrected, threading her needle. "And he's my business manager, so be nice or he'll charge you extra." "I wasn't aware wombats could be business managers? Welcome to the 21st century." Vint waddled to his desk, a modified cat bed with a laptop that looked absurdly large next to him. "Now, are we conducting business, or are we wasting Ms. Voss's very limited time?" The man looked between them, and Indy watched something shift in his expression. Not fear, not disgust, something closer to fascination. "Archer Gray," he said, pulling a business card from his wallet and placing it on the counter. "And I'm starting to think this might be the most interesting thing that's happened to me all month." "Low bar," Vint muttered, opening his laptop. Indy gestured to the changing screen. "Shirt, now, we're on a clock." Archer moved behind the screen. Indy heard fabric rustling, then he emerged holding the destroyed shirt. Their eyes met as he handed it to her. The mate bond hit her like a freight train wrapped in lightning. Indy's hands closed on the fabric automatically, muscle memory taking over while her brain short-circuited. Her wolf surged forward. suddenly awake after years of careful suppression, practically howling with recognition. "Mine," her wolf said. "Ours. Perfect. Keep." "Absolutely not," Indy thought back firmly, spreading the shirt on her workstation with hands that wanted to shake. "Static electricity?" Archer asked, watching her with dark eyes that saw way too much. "Silk," Indy managed, grabbing her pins. "It happens." She could feel him watching her as she worked. The tear was dramatic but clean, straight down the seam line where the fabric had caught on the stroller wheel. She could fix it structurally in 3 minutes, but something made her reach for the bolt of white silk she'd been saving for something special. Her hands moved without conscious thought, cutting delicate pieces, creating something new from the destruction. Hand-stitched details, barely visible unless you knew where to look, turning damage into design. "You're not just fixing it," Archer observed. "No. You're making it better. That's kind of the point of art." Indy didn't look up, focused on each tiny stitch. Taking broken things and making them into something worth keeping. The shop went quiet, except for the click of Vince's keyboard and the soft whisper of thread through silk. "We're now 16 minutes from pickup," Vint announced, "which means we need to leave in exactly 4 minutes to maintain schedule." "Almost done," Indy said. She was. The last stitch went in clean, and she held up the shirt to examine her work. The white silk created a subtle accent along the tier line, turning catastrophe into intentional design. Elegant, different, better than it had been before. "There," Indy said, handing it back. "Good as new. Better, actually." Archer took the shirt, examined it carefully, then looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "This is incredible. How much do I owe you?" "Nothing. That's not... I hit you with a stroller. I'm not charging you for fixing my mistake." Indy was already moving toward the door, grabbing her keys. "Now I'm sorry, but I really need to..." "Wait." Archer pulled on his shirt, fingers working the buttons. "At least let me..." 13 minutes, Vint announced, launching himself from his desk toward the stroller with the agility of a small, furry missile. "We are leaving now." Indy yanked open the door, holding it for Vint as he dove into the stroller. She covered him with the gingham fabric, grabbed her bag, and basically shoved Archer toward the exit. "Lock it behind you," she called over her shoulder, already running. "But The rest of his sentence got lost as Indy hit full speed, the stroller wheels rattling over brick pavement like a getaway car in a very low-budget heist movie. "Your heart rate is elevated," Vint observed from inside his mobile prison. 147 beats per minute and climbing. "Because we're running. Because you met your mate and your wolf is having opinions about it." "My wolf can have all the opinions it wants. We're leaving in 72 hours. 69 hours now," Vint corrected. "And your wolf is literally growling. I can hear it from in here." "My wolf needs to shut up. Your wolf thinks the alpha with the excellent bone structure is worth canceling our exit strategy." "My wolf is an idiot. Your wolf has a point." The stroller bounced as Indy took a corner too fast. "Did you see his business card? Gray Industries. That's the shipping conglomerate. He's not just rich. He's stupid rich. Generational wealth rich. The kind of rich that could solve literally every problem we have. Except the problem where we're running from a pack that wants my daughter. Minor detail." "Minor detail?" "I'm playing devil's advocate. Also, we're going to make it to school with 4 minutes to spare, which means I was correct about the time management issue." Indy skidded to a stop outside Sunshine Elementary just as the bell rang. Parents were already clustering near the front entrance, and Indy positioned herself at the edge of the crowd, trying to catch her breath. "You know what the worst part is?" she said quietly. "That he smelled like cedar and mountain rain, and your wolf wants to roll in it like a dog in something dead." "Vint." "What? I'm right." Indy was very afraid he was. The school doors opened. Children poured out like a dam breaking, and there was Hazel, backpack bouncing, braids coming loose, face lighting up when she spotted Indy. Everything else could wait. Running, leaving, mates who wore expensive suits and had business cards and looked at her like she was something worth fixing instead of something broken. Everything else could wait. "Mommy!" Hazel crashed into her legs, and Indy caught her, held her, breathed in the scent of crayons and playground mulch and unconditional love. "Hey, baby," Indy said. "How was school?" "I made you a picture. It's a wolf. Miss Martinez said it's very good but also maybe concerning. I don't know what concerning means." "I'll explain later." They walked toward the parking lot, Hazel chattering about art class and the weird kid who ate paste, and Indy tried very hard not to think about Archer Gray, or mate bonds, or the business card currently burning a hole in her pocket. "Your heart rate is still elevated," Vint observed from the stroller. "Shut up, Vint." 139 beats per minute, practically a light jog. "I said shut up. Your wolf is still growling." Indy pushed the stroller faster and pretended she couldn't hear him. She was very bad at pretending. Chapter 2. Archer stood in the hallway outside the conference room, adjusting his shirt cuffs for the third time in as many minutes. "You're fidgeting," Nathan observed from where he leaned against the wall, scrolling through his phone. "You never fidget." "I'm not fidgeting," Archer said, dropping his hands. "I'm ensuring professional presentation standards." "You're fidgeting." Nathan pocketed his phone and studied Archer with the kind of attention that came from 20 years of friendship and 10 years as his beta. "Also, your wolf is growling. I can hear it from here. Sounds like a broken garbage disposal." "It's under control." "Under control is not the same as quiet." Nathan pushed off the wall, moving closer. His voice dropped. "How long have you been on suppressants?" 3 weeks. 3? Nathan stopped, breathed out slowly through his nose. "Archer, that's not sustainable. That's barely survivable. Do you have any idea what suppressants do to an alpha wolf after the first week?" "Make them irritable? Make them homicidal." Nathan crossed his arms. "I've seen alphas on 2-week suppressant cycles punch through walls. You're at 3 weeks and holding business meetings. Either you're superhuman or you're a ticking time bomb." "I'm managing. You're a disaster waiting for an audience." Nathan's expression shifted to something more serious. "Why are you doing this to yourself?" "The gala is in 10 days. No. Why are you really doing this?" Nathan stepped closer. "This isn't about business. This isn't even about Virginia. You're suppressing your wolf to the point where he's practically feral underneath. That's not strategy. That's fear. So what are you afraid of?" Archer's jaw tightened. "I'm not... Bullshit!" Nathan's voice went flat. "I've known you since we were 12, and you tried to challenge the alpha's son for pack ranking. Unsuccessfully, I might add, because you were an idiot even then. So don't lie to me now. The alliance is critical. Virginia's family controls. I know what they control. I helped you write the business case, remember? Complete with charts and projections and that slide about vertical integration opportunities that made the board members drool." Nathan paused. "But here's the thing, Archer. You can merge 2 companies. You can't merge 2 wolves that hate each other. We don't hate each other. You don't anything each other. That's worse." Archer stared at the elevator doors across the hall. "Wolves have been doing arranged matings for centuries. Arranged matings where both wolves agree, yes. Arranged matings where both parties go in with eyes open and wolves cooperating? Sure, that works." Nathan leaned against the wall beside him. "But suppressing your wolf until he can't even have an opinion? That's not an arranged mating. That's a hostage situation." "You're being dramatic. I'm being realistic. You want to know what happens to alphas who force bonds against their wolf's instinct?" Nathan's voice went quiet. "They go feral. They attack their own pack members. They wake up 3 months later covered in blood with no memory of what they've done." "That won't happen." "How do you know?" "Because I won't let it." "Archer," Nathan turned to face him fully. "What are you actually afraid of?" The question hung between them like a bomb that hadn't quite decided whether to explode. "I'm afraid my wolf will reject her," Archer said finally. The words felt like glass in his throat. "I'm afraid I'll walk into that gala, stand in front of 300 witnesses, and my wolf will refuse to claim her, in front of her father, in front of the pack elders, in front of everyone who matters." Nathan was quiet for a moment. "That's a valid fear. Thank you. It's also a stupid solution." "Less thank you. Suppressing your wolf doesn't eliminate the problem. It just delays it and makes it worse." Nathan pulled out his phone, glanced at something, then looked back at Archer. You know what the smart move is here? I'm sure you're about to tell me. Let your wolf off the suppressants. Take Virginia out. See what happens naturally. If your wolf accepts her, great. You've got your alliance and your biology cooperating. If your wolf rejects her, you know now, instead of in front of 300 witnesses at a gala, you can't escape from. And if he rejects her now, the alliance falls apart before it's even formalized. Her father pulls out. The board questions my judgment. Gray Industries loses the shipping route advantage and you'll still be alive and sane instead of feral and dangerous, Nathan interrupted. I'm your beta, Archer. My job is to keep you alive. And right now, you're on a path that ends with you dead or feral, and I'd really prefer neither. Archer wanted to argue, wanted to explain that duty mattered more than comfort, that pack politics required sacrifice, that sometimes being alpha meant making choices that hurt. He also wanted to punch something, which was probably the suppressants talking. Nathan's gaze dropped to Archer's shirt. His expression shifted from concerned to curious. Is that new? What? The shirt detail. Nathan gestured at Archer's shoulder. That white silk accent, that's not standard tailoring. Archer looked down at the repair work, delicate white silk running along what had been a catastrophic tear. It was damaged earlier. Someone fixed it. Someone. Nathan leaned closer, examining the stitches with the attention of someone who'd spent enough time around expensive things to recognize quality. Archer, this isn't a fix. This is art. Whoever did this took a ruined shirt and made it better than the original. Who's the someone? A seamstress. Does this mysterious seamstress have a name? An address? A phone number you're trying very hard not to think about right now? Near the farmer's market. Small shop. You're being evasive. You're never evasive with me unless you're hiding something interesting. Nathan pulled out his phone and snapped a photo of the shirt detail. What's her name? Indy. Her name was Indy Voss, and she'd hit him with a stroller containing a wombat business manager, and her shop smelled like lavender and coffee. And when their hands had touched over the ruined fabric, Archer's wolf had gone completely silent for the first time in 3 weeks. Not suppressed silent, interested silent, like coming home after a very long journey. I don't recall, Archer lied. Nathan stared at him, blinked slowly. You're a terrible liar. You always have been. Remember when we were 15 and you tried to convince your dad you weren't the one who crashed his car? That was your fault. That was your inability to lie convincingly while standing next to a smoking wreck. Nathan pocketed his phone. We're definitely coming back to this mysterious seamstress conversation, but right now we have a meeting. Let's go sell this co-branding deal so you can continue your spiral into terrible life choices. Your support is overwhelming. That's what betas are for. Moral support, strategic advice, and pointing out when their alpha is being a catastrophic idiot. Nathan opened the conference room door. The conference room was exactly what Archer expected. Glass walls overlooking the city, leather chairs that cost more than most cars, and too much money sitting around a table pretending to care about innovation when really everyone just wanted to know the profit margins. Anderson Thorne sat at the head of the table, CEO of Thorne Fashion Group, with his design team flanking him like very well-dressed bodyguards. 3 board members from Gray Industries filled the opposite side. Nathan took the seat to Archer's right, legal documents already pulled up on his tablet, looking every bit the professional beta who definitely wasn't about to say, "I told you so," later. Gentlemen, Anderson said, standing to shake Archer's hand. His grip was firm, his smile calculated. Thank you for meeting with us. We're excited about the potential partnership between Gray Industries and Thorne Fashion. As are we, Archer replied, taking his seat. A co-branded luxury shipping experience could revolutionize how high-end fashion reaches consumers, particularly in the direct-to-consumer luxury market. Provided we can maintain brand integrity, one of the designers interjected. A woman with severe glasses and the kind of expression that suggested she took fashion more seriously than most people took religion. Our pieces are art. They require specific handling, climate control, presentation standards that most shipping companies frankly can't provide. Which is exactly why we've spent the last 6 months developing prototype packaging, Nathan said smoothly, pulling up logistics data on the screen behind them. Temperature-controlled containers, custom cushioning systems, and branded unboxing experiences that maintain the luxury positioning throughout delivery. The meeting progressed through projected revenue, market analysis, and the kind of minutia that would have bored most people to tears. Archer had learned early that business success was 10% vision and 90% convincing people with spreadsheets that your vision wouldn't bankrupt them. He was mid-sentence about supply chain optimization when Anderson held up a hand. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Anderson said, leaning forward slightly, "but I have to ask, what is that detail work on your shirt?" Archer blinked. "I'm sorry?" "The white silk accent along your shoulder seam." Anderson gestured. "That's not standard construction. That's custom work. Very good custom work." The lead designer, the severe one who looked like she could kill someone with a perfectly executed seam, leaned forward, squinting. "May I?" Before Archer could form a response, she was out of her chair and examining his shoulder seam like a detective at a crime scene. Nathan coughed. It sounded suspiciously like suppressed laughter. "This is hand-stitched," the designer announced, her fingers tracing the silk accent with something approaching reverence. The silk weight is perfectly matched to the base fabric. The thread tension is flawless, and the placement— She looked up at Anderson. "The placement turns what was clearly catastrophic damage into intentional design. This is exceptional." "Who's the designer?" Anderson asked, his expression shifting to the kind of interest that usually preceded expensive decisions. "It was originally Brioni," Archer said, very aware that everyone at the table was now staring at his chest instead of the logistics presentation. "The alteration was done by a local seamstress, small shop near the market district." "What's the shop name?" The designer had her phone out, fingers already moving. "I want to see their portfolio, their Instagram, their website, anything." "It's a very small operation," Archer said, and felt Nathan's attention sharpen beside him like a blade being drawn. "Small operations don't produce work like this," Anderson said, leaning back in his chair with the expression of someone who'd just found something valuable. "This is the kind of talent Thorne Fashion scouts globally. The ability to join different materials seamlessly? That's not just technical skill, that's vision, that's artistry." "I agree," the lead designer said, reluctantly returning to her seat. "Mr. Gray, if you have contact information for this seamstress, Thorne Fashion would very much like to discuss potential opportunities." Archer felt the words form before he'd consciously decided to say them. "She signed up with us. I mean, we're strengthening our in-house design capability, our own fashion label. This wouldn't have any implication on the collaboration with Thorne Fashion." Nathan's foot pressed against Archer's under the table. Hard. Anderson's eyebrows rose. "You're building an in-house design team? That's ambitious." "It's strategic," Archer said, doubling down on the lie he'd just invented. "As I said, that makes no difference to our collaboration." "Smart move," Anderson said. "Well, bring her to the gala, please. We'd love to meet her, maybe discuss some collaborative projects, if Gray Industries is open to that." "I'll need to check if she's interested in that kind of exposure," Archer said carefully. "Please do," Anderson said, already moving back to his notes. "Now, let's discuss partnership terms and timeline for the pilot program." Santa. The meeting lasted another 90 minutes. By the end, they'd hammered out preliminary agreement terms, scheduled follow-up sessions with legal teams, and established a timeline for the pilot program launch. It was exactly the outcome Archer had wanted. "That went well," Nathan said, as they stood in the elevator heading down to the parking garage. His tone was carefully neutral, the kind of neutral that meant he was about to say something Archer wouldn't like. "Thorne is definitely interested. Board approval should be straightforward." "Archer? Yes? You're doing it again." "Doing what?" "Thinking about the seamstress." Nathan's reflection in the elevator's polished doors showed a smile that was far too knowing. "Also, I know you completely bluffed them about her signing up with us. So you'd better go fix that. Soon. Like today, soon." "I can handle it." "Okay, now might be the time you share her details with me for backup." He nodded. "Her name is Indy. The shop is Stitch in Time, Shop 5 in Market Square. 0 online profile." Nathan arched an eyebrow. "So someone hasn't bothered to search at all, huh?" He pulled out his phone and started typing. I'll let you know what I find. As long as she exists on this earth, there's nothing I can't find out. Online info is just self-declaration about what she wants the world to see. I'm not reading much into that, if anything at all. Nathan probably said something else, but Archer had already walked out of earshot, heading toward Market Square. His wolf stirred beneath the suppressants, suddenly alert, in a way it hadn't been in weeks. Not fighting, not snarling, interested. Through the windshield, he could see the hand-painted sign for Stitch in Time. Letters faded, but somehow perfect in their imperfection. He sat there for a moment, engine idling, wondering what the hell he was doing. He had a gala to organize, a declaration to make, an alliance to formalize. Virginia waiting for confirmation, her father waiting for contracts, the pack elders waiting for him to do his duty. And here he was, about to walk into a tiny shop to see a woman who'd hit him with a stroller and barely looked back. Because his wolf had gone quiet around her. Because she'd turned his disaster into art. Because Nathan's question kept echoing in his head. What are you actually afraid of? Chapter 3. The market was closing. Archer stood across the street from Stitch in Time, watching vendors pack up their stalls under the glow of string lights that had seemed charming in daylight, but now just looked tired. The smell of overripe fruit mixed with something fried from the food cart on the corner. Someone was hosing down the brick pavement, water running in rivulets toward the storm drain. This wasn't his usual neighborhood. His world was glass towers and valet parking, not hand-painted signs and landlords who probably fixed their own plumbing. But something about the fading light on worn brick felt more real than anything he'd experienced in months. The shop was dark, but upstairs, a warm yellow light glowed through lace curtains. She lived above the shop. Archer frowned. That wasn't standard for commercial properties in this district. Wasn't even legal in most zones without specific permits. But then again, nothing about Indy Voss seemed particularly concerned with standard procedure. His wolf stirred beneath the suppressants, coiling like a spring wound too tight. Not aggressive, not fighting, anticipating. Archer crossed the street, dodging a vendor hauling empty crates toward a delivery truck. His hand reached for the shop door before he'd consciously decided to knock. Then the world exploded. Something furry hit him chest high. Then fabric, soft, flowing fabric that smelled like spices and something sweet. Then a basket, or maybe multiple baskets. Hard to tell when you were being attacked by what felt like a small tornado made of household items and rage. Archer's wolf surged forward, instinct taking over. He could counter, could grab whatever was attacking him and throw it. Could definitely hurt it with his bare hands and alpha strength if needed. But something deeper than instinct made him freeze. Don't hurt it. Don't hurt them. Be careful. His vision cleared. Food dripped down his shirt, something orange and thick and definitely curry-based. At his feet stood a wombat in what looked like a defensive stance, and beside the wombat was the most beautiful little girl Archer had ever seen, clutching a milk carton in one hand and a plastic container in the other. The container that had clearly been full of food approximately 10 seconds ago. "Mr. Archer Gray," Vint announced, straightening to his full wombat height of approximately 1 foot. "My sincerest apologies. I didn't recognize you from this angle. Also, you're wearing different shoes. Very disorienting." "What?" Archer asked, still processing the curry dripping off his chin. "The shoes. This morning you were wearing Ferragamos. Now you're in what appear to be Brunello Cucinelli's. Completely threw off my threat assessment algorithm." "Oh, Vint sniffed. "Although I should mention that curry was Mrs. Chen's special recipe, and you've just worn approximately $40 worth of ingredients. She's going to be devastated." The window upstairs slammed open. Indy's head appeared, backlit by the warm glow. "What happened?" "We may have committed assault with a deadly curry," Vint called up. "It wasn't deadly," the little girl protested. "Mr. Archer is still standing." "That's not the legal definition of deadly, Hazel." Indy disappeared from the window. Seconds later, the shop door flew open, and she stood there, hair escaping from a messy bun, wearing an oversized sweater and leggings with paint stains, looking absolutely nothing like the woman who'd thrown him out of her shop that morning, and absolutely everything like someone Archer's wolf wanted to claim immediately. "Oh my God," Indy said, staring at his shirt. "I'm so sorry. Again. This is becoming a pattern and not a good one." "It's curry," Hazel announced helpfully. "And durian ice cream. Mrs. Chen says durian is an acquired taste, but I picked it immediately because I'm very advanced." "It smells like feet," Archer said before he could stop himself. Hazel gasped with delight. "That's what I said, but Mama said I couldn't say that because it's rude. But you just said it, so now I can say it too. It smells like delicious feet." "That's still disturbing," Vint muttered, waddling back toward the shop. "Come inside before the neighbors start recording this for their TikTok accounts. We've had enough viral incidents this quarter. My stress levels can't handle another trending hashtag." Indy grabbed Archer's arm, her hand warm even through the curry-soaked fabric, and pulled him into the shop. She locked the door behind them and flipped on the lights. "I'm so sorry," she said, surveying the damage. "Mrs. Chen, she's our landlord. She lets us stay in the apartment upstairs, and every evening Hazel picks up dinner from her place." Vint gets protective when he sees unexpected shadows. "I'm strategically paranoid," Vint corrected, hauling himself up onto his desk with surprising agility. "There's a difference. One is a personality flaw, the other is a survival skill I've honed to perfection." "You threw curry at a man," Indy said. "I threw curry at an unidentified shadow lurking suspiciously near our premises at dusk. The man was just unfortunate collateral damage." Vint turned to Archer. "Though I should mention your stance is quite good. Most people would have lashed out defensively. You controlled yourself. Very alpha of you. I'm impressed and slightly disappointed. Now the real question is dinner. We've just weaponized our meal, which means we need to acquire a replacement. Preferably one that includes portions for our guest, assuming he's staying." "I don't want to impose," Archer started. "Too late," Vint interrupted. "You're already imposed. You're standing in our shop covered in our dinner at 7:30 in the evening. The imposition has occurred. Now we're just determining the catering arrangements." "We need to go back to Mrs. Chen's," Indy said. "Explain what happened. Get more food." "And possibly grovel for forgiveness," Vint added. "She takes her curry very seriously. There might be tears involved, mine specifically when she lectures me about wastefulness." "I'll pay for the replacement dinner," Archer offered. "And the original dinner, and anything else that got destroyed in the incident." "Absolutely not," Indy said firmly. "We attacked you, again. I'm not charging you for the privilege of being our victim." "But no," Indy crossed her arms. "Here's what's going to happen. Hazel and Vint are going to run to Mrs. Chen's and explain the situation and get more dinner. For 4 people, because you're staying. I'm going to find you something to wear because you can't sit at our table smelling like curried feet. Any objections?" Archer looked at her, hands on hips, paint-stained leggings, determination in every line of her body, and his wolf went absolutely still with want. "No objections," he managed. "Good." Indy turned to Vint and Hazel. "You two go. Be charming. Use the cute factor." "I'm always charming," Vint said, hopping down from his desk. "It's my natural state. Come along, Hazel. Let's exploit your youth and innocence to obtain curry." "I'm very good at being cute," Hazel announced, grabbing the empty containers. She paused at the door and looked back at Archer. "Don't leave while we're gone. Mama needs more practice talking to tall people." "Hazel," Indy said warningly. "What? You said yourself you're bad at small talk with humans over 6 feet." "Out, now!" Hazel giggled and ran out, Vint waddling behind her with the dignity of someone who just orchestrated a tactical retreat. The door closed. The shop went quiet. Indy and Archer stood there, suddenly alone, the air heavy with curry smell and possibility. "So," Indy said, "shower." Archer's wolf perked up with interest. Indy's face flushed. "To wash off the food. The bathroom's upstairs. I'll find you something to wear while we deal with your shirt situation." "Right," Archer said. "Shirt situation. Come on." Indy headed toward the back stairs. "Try not to drip on the fabric samples. Some of them are silk." The apartment was exactly what he expected and nothing like he'd imagined. Tiny, probably illegally tiny by current housing codes, but warm, lived in, the kind of place that felt like home instead of just somewhere to sleep. String lights hung across the living room ceiling. Fabric swatches covered one wall like art. A small kitchen opened into the main space where a table set for 3 waited. Clay animals lined the windowsill, 17 of them by Archer's count. All wolves. "Bathroom's through there," Indy said, pointing. "Towels are in the cabinet. I'll leave clean clothes outside the door." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. You're about to shower in a bathroom the size of a closet with water pressure that can best be described as optimistic trickle." Archer smiled. "I'll manage." He closed the bathroom door and stripped off the ruined shirt and undershirt. The curry had soaked through to his skin. The durian smell clung to his hair. He looked like he'd lost a fight with a Thai restaurant. The shower was indeed the size of a closet. The water pressure was indeed optimistic at best, but it was hot and clean and smelled like lavender soap. And Archer stood under the weak spray, thinking about how he'd had business meetings in hotel bathrooms bigger than this entire apartment. But he'd never felt more at home than he did right now. When he emerged, towel wrapped around his waist because he'd been too focused on not dripping curry everywhere to remember he'd need clothes. A soft t-shirt and clean jeans were folded outside the door. The t-shirt was gray, made from material so soft it felt like wearing a cloud. It smelled like Indy, lavender and coffee and something underneath that was just her. It fit perfectly, which meant she'd either guessed his size with remarkable accuracy or, "It's new," Indy called from the kitchen. "I make them to sell at the market sometimes. That one's a long fit cut large, which seemed about right based on the shirt I fixed this morning." Indy was at the stove, stirring something in a pot. She glanced at him, did a double take, and quickly looked back at the pot. "It fits," she said. "Perfectly." "Good. That's good." She stirred more vigorously than the pot probably required. "I'm making tea. Hazel and Vint should be back soon with dinner. Mrs. Chen will probably send extra because she feels guilty about the attack, even though it wasn't her fault." "Does this happen often?" Archer asked, leaning against the counter. "The attacking visitors thing?" "Define often." "More than once." "Then yes." Indy poured hot water into 2 mugs. "We're not great with unexpected guests. Vint has trust issues, and Hazel has enthusiasm issues, and I have a general policy of avoiding surprises." "Why?" Indy handed him a mug. "That's not really a first visit conversation topic." "What is a first visit conversation topic?" "Weather, local sports teams, the fascinating history of textile manufacturing in this region." Indy smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Anything, except why a seamstress lives above her shop with a wombat business manager and attacks a well-dressed man with curry." Archer wanted to push, wanted to ask why she lived like she was ready to run at any moment, why Hazel made 17 clay wolves, why the apartment felt temporary despite being clearly loved. But something in Indy's expression made him stop. "Tell me about the shirt," he said instead. "The one you made me. The design is beautiful." Indy's shoulders relaxed slightly. "It's a new technique I've been testing. Hand printing with environmentally friendly dyes. The wolves are from Hazel's sketches. She draws constantly, and some of them are actually really good. I've been turning them into textile patterns." "It's incredible work. It's a $15 t-shirt sold at a farmer's market." "It's art," Archer corrected. "The same way that shirt repair this morning was art. You see possibility where other people just see fabric." Indy looked at him over her mug. "You're very good at this." "At what?" "Saying things that make people feel seen." "I'm just observing what's true, Indy. That's what makes it effective." The door burst open downstairs. Footsteps thundered up the stairs, small feet and the distinctive waddle thump of a determined wombat. "We have returned victorious," Vint announced, appearing with takeout containers balanced on his head. Mrs. Chen was initially distraught about the curry incident, but I employed strategic charm and Hazel employed weaponized cuteness. We now have enough food to feed a small army. "Or one very tall person," Hazel added, setting more containers on the table. She looked at Archer in his borrowed clothes and grinned. You look normal now. I'm not sure if that's a compliment, Archer said. It definitely is, Hazel assured him. Normal people are much better. They have dinner, play with clay wolves, and helping with art projects. Hazel, Indy said warningly. What? I'm just saying true things. They sat. Indy served the food. Mrs. Chen had indeed sent enough for a small army. Pot roast, rice, vegetables that actually had flavor, and some kind of dumpling that melted in Archer's mouth. Mrs. Chen says you're welcome any time, Vint announced, claiming his spot at the table with a cushion that elevated him to proper eating height. She also said any man who lets us attack him twice without retaliating is either very patient or very stupid, and she hopes it's the former. Tell her I hope so too, Archer said. Hazel launched into an elaborate story about school involving a hamster escape, a fire drill, and what may or may not have been an actual conspiracy to steal extra snack time. Vint corrected her timeline and added statistical probability analysis. Indy watched them both with the expression of someone who'd seen this performance many times and loved it anyway. Archer felt something in his chest crack open. Something he'd been keeping carefully locked because it was dangerous and inconvenient and completely at odds with his perfectly planned life. This was what he'd been missing. Not the food, or the tiny apartment, or the borrowed t-shirt. This feeling of home. After dinner, Hazel showed him her clay wolf collection, 17 total, each one slightly different, each one running. I like wolves, Hazel explained unnecessarily. They're fast and strong and they take care of their pack. Mama says that's important, taking care of your pack. Your mama is right, Archer said, examining a particularly detailed piece. This is exceptional work. Have you considered sculpture classes? We move around too much for classes, Hazel said, then stopped, glanced at Indy. I mean, we're busy, very busy, with shop things. Right, Archer said carefully. Shop things. Indy stood abruptly. Coffee. Who wants coffee? Me? Vint raised a paw. And possibly something stronger, given the stress levels of this evening. You're not getting wine with dinner. I'm not? Even after I successfully negotiated with Mrs. Chen and prevented an international curry incident? Especially not after that. Your ego is insufferable enough without alcohol. Indy made coffee, real coffee, not the expensive stuff from Archer's office that tasted like liquid ambition. This tasted like someone had cared enough to make it properly. They sat at the table while Hazel played in the corner, building something elaborate with blocks and determination. I need to tell you something, Archer said. Indy's hand tightened on her mug. That sounds ominous. I overstepped today, at the meeting. Archer wrapped his hands around his coffee cup, needing something to hold. I told the Thorne fashion executives that you'd signed up with Gray Industries, that you were part of our in-house design team. Indy blinked. I'm sorry, what? They were impressed by the shirt repair. Asked who did it. I said you were already working for us. Archer met her eyes. I shouldn't have said that without asking. I'm sorry. You told a major fashion corporation that I work for you. Yes. When I don't work for you. Correct. And now you need me to... What? Show up and pretend I do? Essentially, yes. Archer set down his coffee. The gala is in 2 days. It's a masquerade, Halloween theme. Anderson Thorne will be there. He wants to meet you. If I can't produce you, I look either incompetent or dishonest. Possibly both. Indy was quiet for a long moment. You're asking me to come to your gala. I'm asking you to show up, have some conversations, see what opportunities might develop. Archer leaned forward. I overstepped. I know that. But this could be good for you. Thorne fashion scouts globally for talent. One conversation could change your business trajectory. Indy looked down at her coffee. And what exactly would I wear to this gala? What would you wear? That's actually the other thing I needed to ask, Archer said. Would you design something for me? For the masquerade? Indy's head snapped up. You want me to design your costume in 2 days, while also attending the gala as your supposed employee. When you say it like that, it sounds unreasonable. That's because it is unreasonable. But is it impossible? Indy stared at him. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. No, it's not impossible. It's insane, but not impossible. Is that a yes? I'm thrilled someone wants to see my work, and I love making beautiful things, and a masquerade costume sounds amazing, so yes. Indy stood, grabbed a sketchbook from the counter. Halloween-themed masquerade, you said? Yes. Elegant, not campy. I can work with that. Indy's pencil was already moving across the paper. Wolf! Hazel announced from the corner. Make him a wolf prince, with a mask that's like it's part of his face, but also mysterious. That's actually brilliant, Vince said, waddling over to examine Indy's sketch. Classic fairy tale subversion, the beast at the ball. Very literary. Also potentially tax-deductible as a business expense if we categorize it correctly. How is it tax-deductible? Indy asked. Everything is tax-deductible if you're creative enough with categorization. I once wrote off a cheese wheel as office supplies. That's fraud, Vint. That's aggressive accounting. There's a difference. Give him a tail, Hazel said. Absolutely not, Archer said. A small tail? No tail. But wolves have tails. It's anatomically necessary. Mr. Gray will not be wearing a tail to a corporate gala, Vince said firmly. However, I propose a subtle embroidered wolf motif on the jacket lining, elegant, thematically appropriate, and won't photograph poorly for business publications. And I could do something with the collar, Indy murmured, still sketching. Something that suggests fur texture without being costumey. And the mask, yes, I can see it. Half face, silver with black accents, maybe some subtle depth that catches light. I'm getting excited just watching you plan this, Vince said. Should I be documenting this for the portfolio? We should definitely be documenting this. You can't document something that doesn't exist yet, Indy said. I'm documenting the creative process. Very different, much more artistic. You're being annoying. I'm being thorough. I love when Mama and Vint argue about work, Hazel said. It means something good is happening. Indy showed Archer the rough sketch. What do you think? The design was stunning. Elegant, sophisticated, with just enough edge to be interesting. The wolf elements were subtle, suggestions rather than statements. It looked like something a prince might wear to a ball where he was hunting for his future queen, or his mate. It's perfect, Archer said. The words felt heavier than they should. More significant. Indy's hand stilled on the page. You haven't even seen the final version. I don't need to. I trust you. You don't even know me. I know you turned a disaster into art in 6 minutes. I know you're raising a daughter who makes anatomically accurate clay wolves. I know you have a wombat business manager who commits tax fraud with cheese wheels. Archer smiled. I know enough. The air between them went heavy with possibility. Mama, can Mr. Archer come back tomorrow? Hazel asked. For the fitting? He should definitely come back for the fitting. Yes, Indy said, not looking away from Archer. He should. 10 o'clock? I'll be here. Good. Indy closed the sketchbook. I'll need measurements, and you'll need to approve fabric choices. And we'll need to discuss the mass construction. She's going to talk about textiles for 20 minutes now, Vint announced. I've seen this before. It's unstoppable. I don't mind, Archer said. You say that now. Wait until she starts explaining thread counts. I love thread counts, Indy protested. Everyone loves thread counts, Vint agreed. But not everyone needs to hear about them at 8:30 on a Tuesday evening. It's Wednesday, Hazel corrected. Is it? I've lost track of time. That's what happens when you're constantly preventing international curry incidents. Archer stood. I should go. Let you finish your evening. Probably wise, Vint said, though I should mention, you're welcome back any time. You've proven yourself remarkably resistant to assault, which is our primary qualification for friendship. That's a low bar, Archer observed. We're not picky people. Well, Indy is picky about fabric and I'm picky about everything, but generally speaking, we accept most humans who don't actively try to destroy our livelihood. Again, low bar, Vint. It's served us well so far, Mr. Gray. Indy walked him to the door, Hazel trailing behind with Vint bringing up the rear like a tiny judgmental shadow. Tomorrow, Indy said. 10 o'clock. Don't be late. I have a very tight schedule. I'll be here. Good. She paused, hand on the doorframe. And Archer, thank you for the opportunity, for trusting me with something important. Thank you for saying yes. I haven't heard a good reason to say no yet. Tomorrow, Archer said instead. Hazel hugged his leg. Bye, Mr. Archer. I hope you have good dreams. I'm going to dream about wolves running. I hope you do too, Archer said, gently extracting himself. She will, Vint assured him. She always does. It's surprisingly consistent for someone her age, almost like there's a pattern. Very interesting from a developmental psychology standpoint. Vint, Indy said warningly. What? I'm just making observations. Archer stepped out into the cool evening air. The market was completely empty now, just the glow of string lights reflecting in puddles on the brick pavement. He turned back. Indy stood in the doorway, backlit by the warm glow of the shop, Hazel at her side, Vint at her feet. They looked like a painting, something worth protecting, worth fighting for, worth keeping. His wolf surged forward, suddenly desperate to stay, to claim, to mark this place and these people as his. The suppressants pushed back, but weaker now, like they were losing the fight. Tomorrow, Indy said softly, 10 o'clock. I'll be here. She closed the door. The lock clicked. The lights in the shop went dark, but upstairs the warm glow continued. Archer walked to his car, the borrowed T-shirt soft against his skin, the scent of pot roast and coffee, and her still clinging to him. His wolf was howling, not in pain, not in rage, in recognition, in longing. Chapter 4. Hazel loved Thursdays. Thursday meant art class with Miss Martinez, who let her use the good clay and didn't ask annoying questions about why she only made wolves. Thursday meant grilled cheese at lunch, cut into triangles the way Mama did at home. Thursday meant story time where Mrs. Henderson read books about animals and adventure and sometimes magic. Thursday was perfect. Except today, Hazel couldn't stop thinking about Mr. Archer. The way he'd looked at Mama like she was something special. The way he'd examined her clay wolves like they actually mattered. The way he smelled, like cedar and rain and something underneath, that made Hazel's tummy feel warm and safe, like pack. She shook her head, focusing on the painting in front of her. Miss Martinez had told them to paint something that makes you happy. Most kids were painting families or pets or their favorite toys. Hazel was painting a wolf, obviously. But this wolf was different from her usual ones. This wolf was bigger, stronger, standing on a hill with the moon behind him, protecting two smaller wolves, a mama wolf and a baby wolf. That's beautiful, Hazel, Miss Martinez said, leaning over her shoulder. Is that a family of wolves? It's a pack, Hazel corrected. Packs are like families but stronger because they choose each other. That's very wise. Miss Martinez tilted her head, studying the painting more carefully. The big wolf, he's very detailed. Look at the way you've captured the musculature in the shoulders, the power in the stance. Where did you learn to paint like this? I just see it in my head and then I paint it. Well, you see it very clearly. Miss Martinez crouched down to Hazel's level. Hazel, can I ask you something? Hazel kept painting, adding silver to the big wolf's eyes. Okay. Have you been having dreams about wolves? Hazel's hand froze. Mama had said never to talk about the dreams. Never to tell anyone about running through forests or hunting rabbits, or the way her bones felt like they wanted to stretch into different shapes. Sometimes, Hazel said carefully. And in these dreams, do you feel different? Like you're not quite yourself? I feel more like myself, Hazel said before she could stop herself. Miss Martinez was quiet for a moment. Then she stood up. Keep painting, sweetheart. You're doing wonderfully. But as she walked away, Hazel saw her pull out her phone. Indy had her hands on Archer's chest when her phone rang. Don't move, she said, holding the measuring tape taut across his shoulders. I need to get this exactly right or the jacket won't sit properly. I'm not moving, Archer said, though his voice sounded slightly strained. Probably because Indy had been touching him for the past 20 minutes, her fingers tracing measurements across his chest, his arms, his back. Professional touches, necessary touches. Touches that made her skin feel like it was on fire. Your heart rate is elevated, Indy observed, marking another measurement in her notebook. Are you nervous? I'm standing shirtless in a seamstress shop while being measured for a costume I need in 36 hours. What's there to be nervous about? You're a billionaire CEO. I'd think this was the least stressful part of your week. You'd be surprised what I find stressful. Indy looked up. Their faces were inches apart, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his skin, close enough to wonder what would happen if she just leaned forward and... Her phone rang. Indy stepped back, grabbing it from the counter. Sorry, I should... She looked at the screen. It's Hazel's school. Archer straightened. Answer it. Indy pressed accept. Hello? Ms. Voss, this is Miss Martinez from Sunshine Elementary. The woman's voice was carefully neutral. We need you to come pick up Hazel. Indy's blood went cold. Is she hurt? What happened? She's not hurt. But there's been an incident in the schoolyard. We think it's best if you come get her now. What kind of incident? We'd rather discuss it in person. How quickly can you be here? 15 minutes? Less. I'm coming now. Indy hung up and was already moving toward the door, grabbing her jacket. I have to go. Hazel, something happened at school. I'll drive you, Archer said, pulling his shirt back on. You don't have to. I'm driving you. He was already heading for the door. Where's the school? 3 blocks north, but I can walk. It's faster than... I have a car. Archer. Indy. He stopped at the door, looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Let me help. She nodded. They ran. Vint appeared from his desk, launched himself toward the door with surprising speed. I'm coming too. If there's an incident involving Hazel, we need all hands on deck. Or pause. Whatever appendages are available for crisis management. They made it to Archer's Ferrari in record time. Indy dove into the passenger seat, Vint scrambled into the back, and Archer started the engine with the kind of smooth competence that suggested he did this all the time. Then he pulled out of the parking spot, overcorrected, and nearly clipped a lamppost. When was the last time you drove? Vint asked from the back seat, clinging to the leather with his small claws. This morning, Archer said, focusing intently on the road. And before that? 10 years ago. 10 years? Indy's hands gripped the door handle. You haven't driven in 10 years and you thought now was a good time to start? I have a designated driver for all corporate vehicles, Archer said, taking a turn too fast and making the tires squeal. But I didn't want to call my EA to drive me to your shop for a fitting. It seemed too formal. So instead you're going to kill us! Vint shrieked as Archer swerved to avoid a trash can. This is how I die? Not in a blaze of glory or a dramatic business negotiation gone wrong, but as roadkill in a Ferrari driven by a man who clearly failed driver's education? I'm doing fine. You just ran a stop sign. That was a yield. It was red. Red means stop in every language, including whatever language you're currently speaking, which appears to be vehicular manslaughter. Vint, calm down, Indy started. Calm down? We're in a metal death trap piloted by someone whose last driving experience was probably when flip phones were popular. They made it 2 more blocks before Archer tried to parallel park near the school and instead drove directly into a decorative fence in front of someone's garden. The fence collapsed with a terrible crunching sound. The Ferrari's bumper crumpled. Someone's prize-winning roses got absolutely destroyed. Silence. Well, Vince said from the back seat, surveying the carnage. That happened. We're walking, Indy announced, already out of the car. That seems wise, Vint agreed, extracting himself from the back seat with the dignity of someone who'd just survived a natural disaster. I'd like to formally state for the record that I called this. I absolutely called this. Nobody can say I didn't warn everyone about the driving situation. Archer stared at his destroyed bumper, then at the fence, then at Indy already running down the sidewalk. I'll pay for the fence, he called to the house. Leave a note, Vint yelled, waddling after Indy at maximum speed. With your insurance information. This is a hit and run otherwise. I'm not going to jail as an accessory to your crimes. You're a wombat. You can't go to jail. That's what you think. I have a business license. I'm liable. Archer scrawled a note on the back of a business card, wedged it in the mailbox, and sprinted after them. I hope that business card has your direct line, Vint huffed, as Archer caught up. Because that homeowner is going to want words. Many words, possibly legal words. I included my lawyer's number. Smart, see? You're not completely hopeless, just mostly hopeless, specifically regarding vehicular operation. They reached the school to find absolute chaos in the yard, not violent chaos, organizational chaos. Hazel stood in the center of the playground, hands on hips, directing traffic like a tiny military commander. 20 boys stood in a perfect line in front of her, waiting their turn for something. "No cutting," Hazel announced. "Jason, you're after Marcus. Marcus, you're after the twins. Twins, stop arguing about who goes first. You're going together." "What is happening?" Indy breathed. Miss Martinez appeared at her elbow, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and the expression of someone witnessing something both wonderful and deeply concerning. "Your daughter organized the entire playground in 15 minutes. The boys were fighting over the swings, and she commanded them to stop." "Commanded?" That's the only word for it. Miss Martinez watched Hazel adjust the line, moving a boy from position 3 to position 7 with the casual authority of someone who expected to be obeyed. They listened, immediately, and then she organized a rotation system that's actually more efficient than the one we use. "She's 5. Almost 6, Indy said faintly. "Is anyone else impressed by this?" Vint whispered loudly. "Because I'm impressed. That's a Fortune 500 CEO skill set right there. She could run a small corporation. I should give her my card." "Not now, Vint," Indy muttered. "I'm just saying, when she's old enough for employment, I'm available for career counseling." "Ms. Voss," Miss Martinez turned to face her. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Is Hazel special?" Indy's heart stopped. Special how? In a way that might require different educational accommodations, or supervision, or— Miss Martinez paused, choosing her words carefully. "Protection." "I don't know what you mean." "I think you do." Miss Martinez's voice went quiet. "I'm a sensitive. I recognize something in Hazel's artwork, in the way she talks about wolves, in the energy she projects." She looked at Indy directly. "We're a safe school, Ms. Voss. We've had shifter children before. But Hazel's energy is different, stronger. Her wolf is coming out right now, at 5 years old. And the energy she has is more than just an ordinary wolf shifter's energy." Indy felt the ground tilt beneath her feet. "Oh no," Vint said quietly. All humor had drained from his voice. "Oh no, no, no. We're leaving," Indy said abruptly. "Right now. Thank you for calling me." She walked into the playground. "Hazel, time to go." Hazel looked up, saw Indy's face, and immediately understood. "But I'm in the middle of— now, baby." "Okay." Hazel turned to her line of boys. "Everyone remember your positions. Same rotation tomorrow. No fighting." "Yes, Hazel," 20 boys chorused. Indy scooped up Hazel, grabbed her backpack from the fence, and started walking. "Ms. Voss," Miss Martinez called after her. "Thank you for everything," Indy said without looking back. "We'll be in touch about withdrawing her enrollment." She walked faster. Hazel wrapped her arms around her neck, silent and trusting. Behind them, Vint waddled along at top speed, occasionally breaking into something that might generously be called a run. "This is undignified," he announced to no one in particular. "I'm a business manager, not a marathon participant. Someone should carry me. I have tiny legs. They're adorable, but impractical for distance travel." "I'll carry you," Archer said, scooping up the wombat without breaking stride. "I didn't mean you," Vint protested, though he didn't struggle. "You're barely trustworthy with vehicles. I have serious concerns about your carrying capabilities. What if you drop me? What if you trip? What if you forget I'm here and set me down somewhere unfortunate like a trash can?" "I promise not to drop you." That's what they all say, right before the dropping happens. Vint sighed dramatically. "Fine, but if I die, I want it noted that I protested this arrangement." "Noted. Also, you're surprisingly comfortable for someone with no carrying experience. Do you work out?" "You work out. I can tell. The shoulder stability is excellent." "Vint!" Indy called back, her voice tight. "Please stop evaluating his muscle mass." "I'm making conversation. This is a stressful situation." "I cope through commentary." They made it back to Stitch in time in tense silence, broken only by Vint's occasional muttered observations about cardiovascular health and the biomechanics of wombat transport. Indy unlocked the door, ushered Hazel inside, then turned to Archer. "Thank you for the ride," she said. Her voice was flat, carefully controlled. "And the help, but I need you to go now." "Indy, your costume will be ready tomorrow. I'll have it delivered to your office by 3 p.m. "What about the gala? You were coming—" "I can't." Indy looked at him, and Archer saw something in her eyes that made his chest hurt. Fear, exhaustion, the weight of carrying too much alone for too long. "I'm sorry. I know I said yes, but I can't. Things have changed." "What changed? Hazel's wolf is coming out, isn't it?" "And so what, Indy? She's a wolf shifter and it will come out sooner or later. I can protect you." "Protect her? What are you afraid of?" "Everything." She started to close the door. "I'm sorry about your car." "I don't care about the car. Goodbye, Archer." The door closed. The lock clicked. Archer stood there on the empty street, his shirt half-buttoned from the interrupted fitting, his car destroyed 3 blocks away, his wolf howling beneath suppressants that suddenly felt like they were dissolving. Something was wrong. Something was scaring her. Something that involved Hazel and the school and the way Indy had looked at Miss Martinez like she was hearing a death sentence. Archer pulled out his phone and called Nathan. "Please tell me you're not calling from jail," Nathan answered. "I'm not calling from jail." "That's disappointing. I had money on a property damage arrest." Nathan paused. "Why do you sound like someone just kicked your puppy?" "I need you to find out everything you can about Indy Voss. Everything. Where she came from, why she's here, what she's running from. Archer, and I need to know by tomorrow morning." Archer looked up at the apartment window, where he could see Indy's shadow moving behind the curtains. "Something's wrong. Something's scaring her, and I'm going to fix it whether she wants me to or not." "That's either the most romantic or most concerning thing you've ever said." "Probably both." "Fair enough." Nathan's keyboard started clicking. "I'm on it. But Archer, whatever I find, it might be bad. Are you prepared for that?" Archer watched Indy's shadow hold Hazel close, rocking her gently. A mother protecting her cub, a lone wolf with no pack facing something terrible alone. "I'm prepared," Archer said. "Good, because the gala is tomorrow night, and Virginia is literally standing in my office right now. Are you prepared for that as well?" Archer closed his eyes. No, I'm not. Can you hold Virginia off?" "No, Archer, no, I can't." Nathan's voice went serious. "Right now, Virginia is your reality that you and the pack have to deal with. Indy and her past, whatever that is, will have to be a fantasy. The dream that you see at night and is gone by morning. But if you decide Indy is your reality, then Virginia will have to be the dream. So is the alliance and all the business associated with it. Your choice. Either way, you're going to have to sort it out yourself." "Now isn't the time—" "It's never the time, Archer." Nathan sighed. "But you need to come back to the office now. Put on your charming smile, and that will solve all the problems with Virginia. For now." Archer looked up at the window one last time. Indy's shadow was still there, holding Hazel. Safe, together, alone. He got in his destroyed Ferrari, the one that still technically ran despite the cosmetic damage, and drove very carefully back to the office. Back to Virginia and duty and the life he'd planned before a seamstress hit him with a stroller, and everything changed. Chapter 5. The costume was perfect. Indy held it up to the light at 3 a.m, examining every seam, every stitch, every detail that transformed expensive fabric into something that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. Dark charcoal wool for the jacket, so deep it was almost black. Silver silk lining with hand-embroidered wolf motifs, subtle enough to seem like abstract patterns unless you looked closely. The collar had a texture that suggested fur without being literal about it. The mask was her masterpiece. Half-face, silver filigree with black accents, designed to complement rather than conceal. It smelled like him. She'd been working with his measurements, his proportions, imagining how the fabric would drape across his shoulders. Somewhere around midnight, she'd stopped pretending this was just another commission and admitted what she was really doing, holding on to him. One last piece before she disappeared. "You're being sentimental," Vint observed from his desk, where he was creating spreadsheets that looked suspiciously like evacuation plans. It's a costume for a client. Who will pay us? That's the beginning and end of the emotional significance. I know. Do you? Because you've been staring at that jacket for 10 minutes like it's going to tell you the secrets of the universe.
It might, Indy said, carefully folding the costume into tissue paper.
The universe has terrible timing. It's possible it owes me an explanation. The universe owes you nothing. The universe is indifferent to your suffering. Vince's paws moved across his keyboard with the efficiency of someone who'd done this too many times. We need to leave by Friday morning at the latest. Hazel's wolf is emerging. That's a beacon. Anyone looking for an alpha's daughter will feel it. I know. Do you? Because you agreed to design a costume for a gala happening Friday night, which suggests either terrible time management or subconscious self-sabotage. Indy set the costume aside and moved to the window. Outside, the market square was dark and empty. Soon she'd be gone, and this would just be another town she used to live in. I'm taking a cab to Gray Industries headquarters this afternoon, Indy said. Drop off the costume and leave. I won't have to go back. Smart, practical, unlike your decision to develop feelings for a billionaire alpha who's about to marry someone else. I didn't decide to develop feelings. Feelings just happened. Feelings are chemical reactions in the brain designed to ensure reproduction and pack bonding. They're not mystical. They're not destiny. They're biology making terrible suggestions. Vince stopped typing. But you're hurting anyway. Indy pressed her forehead against the cool glass. I made him a costume, that's all. You made him a costume using fabric choices that complement his coloring, proportions that will make him look like a prince, and detail work that took you 8 hours longer than necessary because you wanted it to be perfect. Vince's voice gentled. You made him art, because that's what you do when you care about someone. You make them beautiful things. He already has beautiful things. He doesn't have you. Indy closed her eyes. He has a life, a company, a pack, an alliance that will secure his position for decades. Virginia might not be his soulmate, but she's valuable. She fits into his world. I'm just his mate, Vince said quietly. I don't know that. Your wolf is damaged, Indy. Not dead, and even damaged, she recognized something in him. I saw it, the way you froze when you touched him, the way your hands shook. Vince closed his laptop. You're running from him as much as you're running from whoever killed your husband. That's not... It is. Because staying means risk. Means trust, means believing that maybe this time someone won't die protecting you. Indy turned from the window. Vint, I'm going to sleep, Vint announced, hopping down from his desk. We have a long day tomorrow. Packing. Lying to Hazel about why we're leaving the best town we've found in 5 years. Pretending this is normal instead of devastating. He waddled toward his sleeping corner, a modified cat bed with expensive sheets he'd insisted were essential for cognitive function. Then paused. For what it's worth, Vince said, not looking at her. I liked him. He let me assault him with curry, drove us to the school despite not having operated a vehicle in a decade, and didn't question why a seamstress lives above her shop with a talking wombat and a daughter who commands playgrounds. That's either extraordinary patience or genuine interest, possibly both. It doesn't matter. We're leaving. Right. Leaving. Vint climbed into his bed. Just like we always do. I'm sure this time we'll feel different. He pulled the covers over himself with the finality of someone ending a conversation. Indy stood alone in the workroom, surrounded by fabric and thread and the costume that smelled like cedar and rain and possibilities she couldn't afford. She should sleep. Should rest before tomorrow's chaos. Instead, she picked up the costume and held it against her chest, breathing in the scent of him one last time. Sentimental, foolish, dangerous. But hers for just a few more hours. The cab ride to Gray Industries headquarters took 12 minutes. Indy spent 11 of them clutching the garment bag like it was the only solid thing in a spinning world, and 1 minute paying the driver with hands that wanted to shake. The building was exactly what she expected. Glass and steel and the kind of architecture that said, we have more money than your entire bloodline combined. The lobby was marble and modern art, and a reception desk that looked like it cost more than Indy's annual income. She was halfway to the elevator when she saw her. Virginia stood near the reception desk, talking on her phone.
blonde hair perfectly styled, suit that probably cost thousands, the kind of presence that made everyone in the lobby unconsciously straighten their posture. Indy could turn around, could leave the garment bag with reception, and disappear before Virginia noticed. Virginia looked up. Their eyes met. Too late. Virginia ended her call and walked over with the smooth confidence of someone who'd never questioned whether she belonged anywhere.
"Ms. Voss," Virginia said. Her voice was perfectly neutral. "What a surprise." "I'm just dropping off a delivery," Indy managed, holding up the garment bag.
"For Mr. Gray, the costume." "Ah, the costume everyone's been talking about." Virginia's gaze moved over the garment bag with professional interest. "I was hoping to see it before the gala. Would you mind if I took a look?"
Of course, sure."
Virginia led her to a private sitting area off the main lobby. Leather chairs, glass coffee table, the kind of space designed for important people to have important conversations. Indy carefully removed the costume from the bag, laying it across the back of a chair. Virginia went very still. "This is extraordinary," she said quietly. "It's wool and silk," Indy replied, but her voice cracked on the last word. "It's art." Virginia reached out, touched the fabric with reverence. Her fingers traced the silver embroidery along the lining. "The wolf motifs are subtle."
"Perfect. He'll look like a prince."
That was the idea. Virginia was quiet for a moment, still examining the costume with an intensity that made Indy uncomfortable. Then she turned and smiled at Indy. "Archer is on suppressants, has been for 3 weeks. Did you know that?" Indy's breath caught. "No. He's suppressing his wolf because he's afraid it will reject me, because an arranged mating only works if both wolves cooperate, and his wolf has been fighting him since the engagement was announced." Virginia smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm not on suppressants. My wolf is free, fully present, and completely uninterested in Archer Gray." The words hung between them like a confession. "He's not my mate," Virginia said simply. "I know it. My wolf knows it. And somewhere underneath those suppressants, his wolf knows it too." "Then why?" "Because the alliance is valuable. Because our families have been planning this for 2 years. Because sometimes duty matters more than destiny." Virginia straightened. "But that doesn't mean I want to walk into that gala wearing inadequate armor." "Armor?" "A good dress can make all the difference. Confidence, presence, the appearance of belonging even when you're not quite sure you do." Virginia's gaze moved over Indy with professional assessment. "You made Archer's costume. Do you have something ready you can quickly fix for me?" Indy had made herself a dress, but she wasn't going to the gala. So why not? At least the dress would get seen. "Yes, indeed, I have something that you might be interested in."
"Really?" Indy nodded. "It's at my shop."
3 blocks from here." "Let's go," Virginia said. Virginia stood in the back room of Stitch in Time, looking at the dress like it was a religious experience. "This is extraordinary," she said quietly. "It's silk and cotton and lace," Indy replied, but her voice cracked on the last word. "It's art." Virginia reached out, touched the fabric with reverence. "May I try it on?" "Yes, of course." Virginia disappeared behind the changing screen. Indy stood there feeling like she was watching her own heart get packed into a box and shipped somewhere far away. "Does it fit?" Indy called. "Perfectly." Virginia emerged. The dress transformed her. The twilight silk brought out the blue in her eyes. The delicate laces softened her marble edges. The way the cotton layered made her look ethereal, almost fragile, like something precious that required protection. She looked like a princess. She looked like everything Archer's pack would expect standing beside their alpha. "It's perfect," Virginia said, examining herself in the mirror. "How much?" "Nothing. I can't consider it a gift." Indy's voice was steady despite the screaming in her chest. "You're right. A good dress makes a difference. You should have armor when you need it." 15 minutes after Virginia left, Indy still stared at the emptiness where the dress had been. The shop felt empty, wrong, like something essential had just been removed, and Indy hadn't noticed until the space where it used to be started aching. "That was insane," Vint announced from the doorway. "Categorically, certifiably, should be studied by psychologists insane.
You gave your rival the dress you made to impress your mate. He's not my mate, she's not my rival. My wolf doesn't even know.
Your damaged wolf recognized something in him.
That's as close to mate recognition as you're capable of feeling. And you just handed Virginia the physical manifestation of your feelings wrapped in silk and false generosity.
It was the right thing to do.
It's not. You just gave away your last chance at happiness because you're too scared to believe you deserve it.
And that's too depressing even for me.
Indy sank into her chair.
I have to run. We have to run.
He died for that.
Your husband died protecting you. He didn't tell you to run forever.
Especially when the wind changes.
And you know what, Indy? I think the wind changes every 6 months as your imagination. Like a paranoid weather vane with commitment issues. Hazel needs protection, yes, but the wind changes. Vint made a dismissive gesture with his paw. That's just your guilt wearing a meteorological costume. He told me to run. His last words were, run and keep running.
How am I supposed to ignore that?
Vint was quiet for a moment. If your husband could see you now, 5 years later, still running, still alone, teaching Hazel that home is temporary and trust is dangerous, what do you think he'd say?
Indy's throat tightened. I don't know. I think you do. I think you know exactly what he'd say, and that's why you won't let yourself think about it.
Vint's voice gentled. He died protecting you. That's love. But love doesn't demand eternal penance. Love doesn't require you to spend the rest of your life proving his sacrifice meant something by never being happy again.
That's not what I'm doing.
Isn't it? You're so busy honoring his memory by running that you've forgotten how to honor it by living. Vint, if he loved you, really loved you, don't you think he'd want you to accept help when it's offered? To let someone stand beside you instead of always standing alone? To give Hazel a chance at stability instead of teaching her that safety means never stopping? Indy couldn't speak. Archer is available, Vint said quietly. He's powerful, he's interested, and he's willing to risk $1 billion alliance to figure out why you hit him with a stroller. That's not nothing. That's actually something pretty extraordinary. He has a life before me. Virginia might not be his soulmate, but she gives him value. I only bring trouble.
You bring yourself, which happens to include trouble, but also includes talent, resilience, a daughter who makes anatomically accurate clay wolves, and me, a wombat with impeccable business acumen and devastating wit.
Vint adjusted his position on the table. That's not nothing either. It's too late anyway. Virginia has the dress, Archer has his gala. We have our exit plan. Everything's decided. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, you're making decisions based on fear instead of fact. And fear is a terrible accountant. It never balances the books correctly. Indy looked at him, this ridiculous wombat who'd attached himself to her family 5 years ago and refused to leave despite having every reason to find less complicated employment.
When did you become a therapist?
When I started working for someone who treats survival like a full-time job and living like an optional hobby.
Vint's expression was impossibly serious for a wombat.
I'm not saying don't leave. I'm saying make sure you're leaving because it's right, not because it's familiar. Because familiar isn't always safe. Sometimes it's just another kind of prison. You're mixing your metaphors. I'm making a point. Try to keep up.
Despite everything, Indy almost smiled.
What would I do without you? Probably make even worse decisions. It's terrifying to contemplate. Vint hopped down from the table. I'm going to make dinner, something portable for tomorrow. You should rest. She sighed. Okay. That night, the wind changed. Indy felt it at midnight, stirring the curtains in her bedroom window. Not a weather pattern, not a natural shift. A message. She sat up in bed, her damaged wolf suddenly alert in a way it hadn't been in years. Not recognizing, not calling, just aware. Something was coming. Indy walked to the small altar she kept on her dresser. A candle, a photo of her husband, young, smiling, alive. A wolf figurine Hazel had made when she was 3. She lit the candle. I'm still listening, she whispered. I'm still running when you tell me to run. I'm keeping our daughter safe, I promise. The candle flame flickered, grew stronger. Indy felt him then. Not a presence, not a voice, but a feeling. Warmth, protection, the sense of being watched over by something that loved her beyond death. I miss you, she said. I miss having someone who understood, who made staying feel possible. The flame danced. Vint thinks I'm running from more than danger. He thinks I'm running from the possibility of being happy again, from trusting someone new. Indy's throat tightened. Is he right? Is that what this is? The candle burned steady. If you could talk to me, really talk to me, what would you say? Would you tell me to keep running forever? Or would you tell me that if help came, if protection was offered, if someone was willing to stand between Hazel and danger? She stopped. Would you want me to take it? The wind through the window grew stronger. The candle flame bent, reformed, burned brighter, and for just a moment, impossibly, illogically, Indy felt warmth, like an embrace, like approval, like a goodbye that wasn't an ending, but permission for a beginning. I don't know how to stop, she whispered. I don't know how to trust that someone won't die protecting us, that staying won't just mean another funeral, another goodbye, another 5 years of teaching Hazel that we can't ever settle. The candle flickered, once, twice, then went out. Not blown out, not naturally extinguished, just finished, like a conversation ending, like a spirit stepping back, like a husband saying it's okay to let go. Indy sat in the darkness, her damaged wolf quiet in her chest. Tomorrow, they'd leave. Tomorrow, she'd take Hazel and Vint and disappear into whatever came next. Tomorrow, Archer would stand beside Virginia at a gala and seal an alliance that would protect his pack for decades. Tomorrow, everything would be decided. But tonight she had to pack, had to prepare, had to make sure they were ready to leave at first light. Indy went to her sewing kit, pulling out the portable set she'd take with them. Her good scissors, her needle case, the thread collection she'd been building for 5 years across 8 different cities. Her hand closed on something unfamiliar. A needle. Strange. Not one of hers. Too heavy, too cold, with markings she didn't recognize etched along its length. How had this gotten into her kit? Indy lifted it to the light. The markings seemed to move, shifting like they were alive. Beautiful, mesmerizing, like silver thread woven into impossible patterns. She should put it down, should throw it away. Something about it felt wrong, dangerous in a way that had nothing to do with sharp points, and everything to do with the way it seemed to pull at her attention. But her fingers wouldn't release it. The markings grew brighter, more insistent. And before Indy could think, before she could drop it, before she could call for Vint, the needle pricked her finger. A single drop of blood welled up, black in the candlelight. Pain. Then nothing. Indy's vision blurred. Her legs buckled. The world tilted sideways as she fell. Her last coherent thought. A name she hadn't meant to think. A prayer she hadn't meant to pray. Archer. Then darkness took her, and she knew nothing else. Chapter 6. The gala was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across the ballroom, each facet throwing rainbows that danced on marble floors polished to mirror-bright perfection. The air was thick with expensive perfume, champagne, and the particular scent of money celebrating itself. Silk rustled, jewelry glittered. Conversation hummed at the frequency of people who never had to check price tags. 200 of the city's most influential wolves filled the Gray Industries headquarters ballroom, dressed in elaborate Halloween masquerade costumes that probably cost more than most people's cars. Venetian masks, Gothic elegance, a few brave souls in full Baroque regalia that required structural engineering to support. The event planners had outdone themselves. Black and silver dominated, metallic draping that caught the light, floral arrangements that looked like they'd been stolen from a fairy tale, ice sculptures of wolves mid-howl that hadn't started melting yet despite the crush of bodies. String quartet in the corner, playing something haunting. Waiters gliding through the crowd with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres that were probably technically food, but looked more like edible art. Archer stood at the edge of it all, wearing the costume Indy had made, and saw nothing but emptiness. The jacket fit perfectly. The mask transformed him into something between prince and predator. People kept complimenting his costume, asking who his designer was. Admiring the subtle wolf motifs in the lining, he felt hollow. "You look like someone died," Nathan observed, appearing at his elbow with 2 champagne flutes. He was dressed as something between a Victorian gentleman and a pirate, which somehow worked. "This is your engagement party. Try to look less like you're attending a funeral." "I'm trying." "Try harder. People are starting to notice that the groom looks like he's being led to an execution instead of an alliance that will secure generational wealth and power." Archer took the champagne, didn't drink it. "Did you find anything?" "About Indy Voss?" Nathan's voice dropped. "Yes, and it's not good." "Tell me." "Not here. Too many ears." Nathan glanced around the ballroom. "But the short version, I found traces of an old pack. Small territory, northern region, completely destroyed 5 years ago by unknown forces. And I mean destroyed, the entire pack, down to the children. No survivors on record." Archer's wolf pressed against his consciousness, suddenly alert despite the suppressants. "No survivors? Officially? No. But pack records can be manipulated, especially if someone powerful enough wants them erased." Nathan met his eyes. "If Indy came from that pack, if she survived somehow, she's been running from whatever destroyed them for 5 years." "Exactly. And whatever it was powerful enough to wipe out an entire pack without leaving evidence. That's not a rogue attack. That's organized, deliberate, the kind of thing that requires serious magic or serious influence. Possibly both." Archer's hands tightened on the champagne flute. You need to stand here and smile and get through this gala," Nathan interrupted. "Because in about 20 minutes, you're expected to officially claim Virginia in front of everyone here, and if you run out now, you'll destroy the alliance and make both packs look unstable. So whatever you're planning to do about Indy, it happens after tonight." "Nathan, I know, but right now, duty first. You can save her tomorrow." The words felt like glass in Archer's throat. Tomorrow might be too late. Tomorrow, Indy might already be gone, disappeared into whatever refuge she'd found, taking Hazel and that ridiculous wombat and the possibility of something real with her. Tomorrow, Archer might wake up and realize he'd chosen duty over destiny and regretted it for the rest of his life. Music swelled, the crowd shifted, attention turning toward the grand staircase. Virginia appeared at the top. She was stunning. The dress, Indy's dress, transformed her into something ethereal. Twilight silk that caught the light and seemed to glow from within, delicate laces that made her look fragile and powerful at once. The way it moved as she descended the stairs made it seem alive, breathing, a work of art that happened to be worn by a woman who knew exactly how to carry it. The crowd went silent, then murmured appreciation rippled through the ballroom like a wave. Archer recognized the dress immediately. He'd seen it in Indy's shop, hanging on the dress form near the window. The one she'd made for herself. The one she'd never planned to wear because she'd never planned to come. And now Virginia wore it, carrying it with the grace of someone who understood she was modeling more than fabric. She was modeling possibility, artistry, the kind of craftsmanship that made fashion executives reach for their checkbooks. Anderson Thorne materialized beside Archer, practically vibrating with interest. "That dress, gray, is that the work of the seamstress I mentioned?" "Yes. It's extraordinary. The construction, the fabric choices, the way it moves." Anderson's gaze tracked Virginia as she descended. "Where is she? I need to speak with her immediately. This is exactly the kind of talent Thorne fashion scouts globally. If she's available for a design partnership—" "She couldn't make it tonight," Archer said. The words tasted like failure. "That's unfortunate. But this—" Anderson gestured at Virginia, who had reached the bottom of the stairs and was now surrounded by people wanting to examine the dress more closely. "This is a masterpiece. If you have her contact information, I'll make sure you connect." Virginia made her way through the crowd, accepting compliments with practiced grace until she reached Archer's side. "Ms. Whitmore," Anderson said immediately. "That dress is extraordinary. Where did you acquire it?" "I'm modeling it for the seamstress who made it," Virginia said smoothly. "Ms. Indy Voss, who's affiliated with Gray Industries. She couldn't attend tonight, but she wanted her work represented. This piece was specifically patterned with Gray Industries' aesthetic in mind." You can see the silver threading that mirrors their corporate branding. She turned slightly, and the dress caught the light, revealing subtle silver accents Archer hadn't noticed before. Threads that looked almost like the ones Indy had used to repair his shirt that first day, woven throughout the fabric like a signature, like a claim. "Brilliant," Anderson breathed. "Absolutely brilliant. Gray, you've found a treasure. If she's already on your design team, we're working on finalizing the partnership," Archer said, the lie coming easily now. "But I can assure you, Thorne Fashion will have first access to collaborative opportunities." "Excellent, excellent," Anderson shook his hand with renewed enthusiasm. "This is exactly the kind of creative vision our collaboration needs. I'll have my people reach out next week to discuss specifics." He wandered off to examine the dress from another angle, already pulling out his phone to text his design team. The crowd was happy. The alliance was secured. Everything was going exactly as planned. Archer felt like he was dying. Music started. A waltz, slow and elegant, the kind of thing designed for important people to dance while making important decisions. Virginia turned to him, offering her hand. "Shall we?" They moved to the center of the ballroom. The crowd parted, watching, expecting. This was the moment, the public claim, the official announcement, the sealing of an alliance that would echo through generations. Archer took Virginia's hand and led her into the dance. She moved with perfect precision, her body language broadcasting exactly what the crowd expected. Confidence, grace, the bearing of someone born to stand beside an alpha. "You saw Indy," Archer said quietly, their voices covered by the music. "Yes, and? I like her." Virginia's expression was carefully neutral. "She's talented, genuine. The kind of person who makes beautiful things because she can't help herself, not because she's chasing profit." "Did she say anything about tonight?" "She said she wasn't coming, that she had obligations." Virginia's gaze met his. "But I could see the chemistry between you two, the way you don't look at me, the way she made you a costume like she was trying to hold on to something precious." Archer's step faltered slightly. "Virginia, if you let yourself see it, really see it, without the suppressants clouding everything, you'd know we're not meant for each other." Her voice was soft but certain. "I've known it since the engagement was announced. My wolf has been completely silent around you. No interest, no recognition, nothing. I know we're not meant for each other," Archer admitted. "But we both have responsibilities to our packs. The alliance doesn't require us to mate," Virginia interrupted gently. "Our packs collaborating doesn't mean you and I have to force something that was never meant to exist. We were pushed together because neither of us had found a fated mate. But if you have found yours, I don't know that. I can't know that. Not under suppressants. Then let them go." Virginia's hand tightened on his shoulder. "When this dance ends, people will expect you to officially claim me, to announce the bond, to seal what our families have been planning." "I know. So before that happens, while you still have a choice, let your wolf free. See what it tells you. Because if Indy is your mate, you shouldn't be standing here with me. You should be with her." The music slowed. The waltz was ending. In 30 seconds, Archer would be expected to turn to the crowd, to announce his claim on Virginia, to seal an alliance that would protect both their packs for generations. 30 seconds to decide between duty and destiny. 20 seconds. 10. Archer released the suppressants. It was like tearing off a bandage that had been glued to skin, painful, sudden, raw. His wolf surged forward, finally free after 3 weeks of chemical imprisonment, and immediately howled. Not in triumph, not in relief, in agony. Mate. His mate was in trouble, in danger, in pain. The wolf knew before Archer's conscious mind caught up, knew with the certainty of instinct that superseded logic. The bond he hadn't been able to feel under suppressants snapped into place with devastating clarity. And on the other end, terror, darkness, unconsciousness, Indy. Archer staggered. Virginia caught him, her expression alarmed. "What's wrong?" "My mate." The words came out strangled. "She's in trouble." The music stopped. The crowd was watching, waiting for the announcement. Archer straightened, turned to face them, pulled off his mask so everyone could see his face clearly. "I have an announcement," he said, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "But it's not the one you're expecting." Nathan appeared at his elbow, tense and alert. "Archer, what are you—" "I found my fated mate." Archer's wolf was clawing at him, desperate to get to her, to protect, to save. "Her name is Indy Voss. She's the designer who created this costume. Who created Miss Whitmore's dress? She's mine!" Gasps. Murmurs. The crowd rippled with shock. Virginia stepped forward, her expression serene. "I've known for some time that Archer and I weren't fated mates. My wolf never recognized him. When he told me he'd found his mate, I was happy for him. This isn't a rejection. This is both of us acknowledging what our wolves have always known." She turned to the crowd. "The alliance between our packs stands. Business partnerships don't require mating bonds. Whitmore Industries and Gray Industries will continue our collaboration, but Archer Gray belongs with his fated mate, and I'm glad he found her." The crowd was silent, processing, recalculating. Then someone started clapping. Others joined. Within seconds, the ballroom filled with applause, because wolves understood. Fated mates were sacred. Fighting that bond was futile. Everyone here had hoped to find theirs. How could they begrudge Archer for finding his? Archer barely heard it. His wolf was howling, insistent, desperate. "Go. Now. Mate needs you." Then the crowd parted. A 5-year-old girl in a dress walked through the ballroom doors like she owned the place. Behind her waddled a wombat in a tiny tuxedo that had been clearly custom-made, Hazel. And Vint. The guards at the door hadn't stopped them, hadn't even questioned them, because Hazel walked with an aura that made people step aside without thinking. Alpha energy that shouldn't be possible in a child so young, but was undeniably there. The crowd parted automatically, instinctively recognizing power even when it came in a small package. "Mr. Archer!" Hazel called across the ballroom. Her voice carried despite her size. "Vint says we need you, right now." Vint waddled faster, reaching Archer first. His tuxedo was slightly askew, like he'd dressed in a hurry. "Your mate needs you. Immediately. I don't know what happened, but she's—" He stopped, clearly struggling for words. "She won't wake up. And you're the only one who might be able to fix this." That was all Archer needed to hear. His wolf was already moving, already running, already abandoning the gala and the alliance and every carefully planned piece of his future because none of it mattered if Indy was in danger. "Nathan, drive!" Archer commanded, already heading for the door. "Now." Nathan didn't question it, didn't hesitate, just grabbed his keys and ran. They made it to the car in record time, Nathan's Mercedes, reliable and fast. Archer dove into the passenger seat. Vint scrambled into the back, Hazel beside him, her small face frightened but determined. "The shop," Vint said. "Stitch in time, Market Square." Nathan peeled out of the parking garage like he was driving a getaway car. The ride took 8 minutes that felt like hours. Archer's wolf was going insane, howling, clawing, desperate to get to their mate. The bond he'd finally let himself feel pulsed with wrongness, with danger, with the terrifying silence of unconsciousness. They abandoned the car half a block from the shop. Archer ran, faster than human, his wolf lending speed and desperation to his legs. The shop door was unlocked. He burst through. Indy lay on the floor of her workroom, surrounded by fabric and thread. Still, silent, beautiful and terrifying in her absolute stillness. Not breathing. No, wait. Breathing, but barely. Shallow, unconscious. Sleeping like she'd never wake up. Archer dropped to his knees beside her, touched her face, cold, too cold. "Indy," his voice cracked. "Indy, wake up." Nothing. The bond between them pulsed with emptiness. She was there, but not there, present, but absent, like something had stolen her consciousness and left only her body behind. "What happened?" Archer looked at Vint. "I don't know. I found her like this 20 minutes ago. She was packing, preparing to leave, and then nothing. Just collapsed." Vint's voice was shaking. "I tried everything. Nothing woke her. Magic. This was magic, dark magic, the kind that left traces of wrongness in the air. Archer looked down at Indy, his mate, finally found and immediately in danger, and made a decision. He leaned down and kissed her, not because he thought it would work, not because fairy tales were real, but because if this was dark magic, sometimes the counter was simple. True love's kiss. A fated mate's claim. The bond snapping into place with enough force to shatter whatever curse held her. His lips touched hers. The bond between them exploded. Light, warmth, recognition so powerful it felt like being struck by lightning. Mine, his wolf sang. Ours. Mate. Forever. And Indy's eyes opened. Brown eyes, wide and confused and beautiful, focused on him. Recognized him. Archer? Her voice was hoarse, confused. What? She was alive, awake, his. Archer pulled her into his arms and held her like she might disappear if he let go. "You're okay," he said into her hair. "You're okay. I've got you." "I don't understand." There was a needle, and then Indy pulled back slightly, looking around the workroom, at Hazel, who had run to her side, at Vint, who looked relieved enough to cry, at Nathan, standing awkwardly in the doorway, at Archer, who was still holding her like she was the only solid thing in a spinning world. What happened? The lights flickered. Everyone froze. A shadow formed in the corner of the workroom. Not solid, not quite real, but present enough to see, the outline of a man, tall and strong, with the bearing of an alpha. Indy gasped. "No, that's not possible." The shadow smiled, spoke in a voice like wind through trees. "Hello, love." "You're dead," Indy whispered. "I watched you die." "I am dead, but I made a deal, to watch over you, to guide you, to keep our daughter safe until—" The shadow turned to look at Archer. "Until you found someone who could protect you properly, someone worthy of the bond." Archer stood, positioned himself between Indy and the shadow instinctively. The shadow laughed. "Easy, Alpha. I'm not here to harm her. I'm here to release her." "Release her from what?" Archer demanded. "From the bond we made, from the debt I owe, from the darkness that's been hunting our daughter." The shadow moved closer to Hazel, who watched with wide eyes but didn't look afraid. "Archer Gray, you've claimed Indy as your mate. Do you also claim responsibility for her family? For her daughter? For the bond that will officially tie you to our bloodline?" "Yes." Archer didn't hesitate. "I claim all of it. Indy, Hazel, even the wombat." "Hey," Vint protested. "I'm not part of—" "You know what? Never mind. I'll take it." The shadow laughed again, then turned to Hazel, knelt before her, his form becoming more solid, more real. "My little wolf, I've watched you grow strong, brave, more powerful than anyone expected." He touched her face, or seemed to. "I'm releasing the bond I made with you. You're no longer mine. You're no longer tied to the deal I made to protect you. The dark magic that wants your blood can never claim you now. You belong to your mother and to Archer. You're free." "Daddy?" Hazel whispered. Her small hand reached toward him, not afraid, just remembering. "You're the wind. You've been the wind the whole time." "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I made a deal with devils to save you. Sorry I caused your mother 5 years of running. Sorry I couldn't protect you better." His voice cracked with emotion no ghost should be able to feel. "But you found a family, a real one. Someone who will protect you without bargaining with darkness. Someone worthy." He stood, turned to Indy. "I loved you. I love you still. But holding on to that love from beyond death isn't love anymore. It's imprisonment. So I'm letting go. I'm giving you permission to be happy, to trust him, to stop running." The shadow reached out, touched her face. "Be happy, Indy. Live the life I couldn't give you." "I will. Thank you for what we had. Thank you for giving me Hazel," Indy said, tears streaming down her face. "No more running. That ends now." He smiled. "Take care of our daughter. Take care of yourself. If an Archer—" He turned to face Archer fully. "Protect them, love them, give them the home I couldn't." "I will," Archer promised. "I swear it." "Good." The shadow was fading now, becoming transparent. Then my debt is paid, my bond is released, and you're all free. The shadow smiled one last time. Thank you for loving me, for keeping our daughter safe, for being so strong when I left you too soon. I loved you, Indy whispered. I know, and that's enough. Then he was gone. The light steadied, the shadows in the corners returned to normal. The oppressive sense of magic lifted. They stood there in the silence, Archer, Indy, Hazel, Vint, and Nathan, who had witnessed the impossible and looked like he was reconsidering his entire understanding of reality. Well, Vint said finally, that was dramatically convenient. Despite everything, Archer laughed, pulled Indy closer, felt Hazel attach herself to his leg, his mate, his family, his pack. Finally whole, finally home. Epilogue. 6 months later. The spring gala at Gray Industries was significantly less dramatic than the last one. For starters, nobody was under suppressants. Nobody was being forced into an arranged mating. And most importantly, the woman standing beside Archer actually wanted to be there. Indy adjusted the silver wolf pin on Archer's lapel, a subtle piece she'd designed that had become his signature accessory. His hand covered hers, holding it against his chest for a moment longer than necessary. You look beautiful, he said. You say that every day. It's true every day. Indy smiled. The dress she wore tonight was new, midnight blue silk with constellation patterns embroidered in silver thread. She'd made it herself, in the studio that now occupied an entire floor of the Gray Industries building. Her studio, with a team of 12 designers, 3 pattern makers, and enough fabric to make her 20-year-old self weep with joy. Mama, Mr. Vint says I can't bring Jasper to the gala, Hazel announced, appearing in the doorway of Indy's studio. She was wearing a dress the color of spring flowers, her hair in 2 braids woven with silver ribbons. At 6 years old, she'd grown 2 inches and gained approximately 300% more confidence. Behind her waddled Vint, resplendent in a custom 3-piece suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. He'd insisted on the vest, and the pocket watch, and the tiny top hat he was currently wearing at a jaunty angle. Jasper is a ferret, Vint said, with the long-suffering patience of someone who'd had this argument 17 times already. Ferrets are not appropriate gala companions. They steal things, expensive things, things that belong to billionaires who can afford very good lawyers. But you're going, Hazel protested. You're an animal. I am a wombat. There is a significant difference. Primarily in the areas of sophistication, business acumen, and the ability to wear formal wear without looking ridiculous. You're wearing a tiny top hat, and I look magnificent in it. You look like a fuzzy mushroom. Vint gasped with theatrical offense. I look like a distinguished gentleman of business. There's a portrait being commissioned by Anderson Thorne himself for the Thorne Fashion Headquarters. I'm officially a brand ambassador. This was true. Vint had somehow parlayed his appearance at the Halloween gala into a consulting position with Thorne Fashion. Something about understanding the intersection of whimsy and luxury market positioning. He now had his own office, his own email signature, and a salary that made Indy slightly uncomfortable. He was also completely insufferable about it. Can we please not fight about the ferret again? Indy said, crouching down to Hazel's level. Jasper is staying home with Mrs. Chen, who promised to give him all the attention he needs. You're coming to the gala with us, as a family. Hazel's expression brightened. As a family? As a family, Archer confirmed, moving to stand beside them. His hand naturally found Indy's shoulder. The mate bond hummed between them, warm, solid, right. 6 months, and it still felt like coming home every time they touched. Does that mean I can tell people you're my dad now? Hazel asked Archer. You've been telling people that for 4 months. I know, but you said to ask permission before making official announcements. So I'm asking, officially. Archer knelt down, bringing himself to Hazel's eye level. Yes, officially I'm your dad. We finished the adoption paperwork last week. It's legal, permanent, forever. Hazel threw her arms around his neck. Good, because I already made you a Father's Day card, and it would be really awkward if you weren't actually my dad. Father's Day is in 2 months. I like to plan ahead. Vint taught me about strategic preparation. That's my girl, Vint said proudly, always thinking 3 moves ahead. That's how you dominate the corporate landscape. You're 6, Indy pointed out. Age is just a number. Success is a mindset. You've been reading too many business books. There's no such thing as too many business books. That's quitter talk. Nathan appeared in the doorway, looking harried and slightly overwhelmed. He was wearing a tux that fit him perfectly and the expression of someone who'd been dealing with logistics all day. The car is ready. The venue is prepared. The guest list is confirmed. Anderson Thorne has been reminded 3 times not to monopolize Indy for business discussions because this is a family event. Virginia sends her regrets. She's in Milan for Fashion Week but says congratulations. He paused. Also, someone needs to explain why there's a ferret in my office. That's Jasper, Hazel explained. He wanted to see where you work. He knocked over my coffee, twice. He's very curious. He's a menace. Mrs. Chen will retrieve him, Indy promised. I'm so sorry, Nathan. Don't apologize. After witnessing a ghost release a centuries-old dark magic curse 6 months ago, a ferret in my office barely registers on my scale of concerning events. Nathan checked his watch. We need to leave in 5 minutes if we want to arrive on time. 5 minutes, Archer confirmed, standing and offering his hand to Indy. Ready? She took his hand, felt the bond pulse between them, looked at Hazel, happy, safe, no longer running. At Vint, ridiculous and beloved in equal measure. At Nathan, who'd become an unexpected friend and godfather to Hazel in the months since everything changed. Her family, her pack, her home. Ready? Indy said. The gala was exactly what Indy had expected, and nothing like she'd feared. The Grey Industries ballroom was transformed again. This time for the official launch of the Greythorn Fashion Collaborative, featuring the debut collection from Indy's design studio. Spring themes dominated. Cherry blossoms in impossible arrangements, silk draping in shades of green and pink, lighting that made everything look like it was bathed in dawn. And everywhere, her designs. Models circulated through the crowd, wearing pieces from the collection. Dresses that moved like water, suits that made men look like princes. Accessories that caught light and held it. Each piece bore her signature. Subtle wolf motifs woven into fabric, barely visible unless you knew to look. People kept stopping her, congratulating her, asking about upcoming collections, requesting private commissions. Anderson Thorne had cornered her twice already with just one quick question that turned into 15-minute conversations about fabric sourcing and manufacturing timelines. It should have been overwhelming. Instead, it felt like validation, like proof that running had ended and living had begun. You're doing it again, Archer murmured in her ear, his hand warm on her lower back. Doing what? Looking surprised that people appreciate your work. I'm not surprised. I'm just adjusting. Adjust faster. You're brilliant. Everyone here knows it. You're the only one who still seems shocked by it. Indy leaned into him slightly. 6 months of being able to do this, to touch him, to stand beside him, to be claimed and protected and loved, and it still felt new. Still felt like something she'd stolen rather than earned. I spent 5 years running, she said quietly. 5 years convinced that stopping meant dying. It's hard to believe I'm allowed to have this. You're allowed. Archer's arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer. You're allowed to have everything. Success, safety, a family, a wombat in a top hat who won't stop talking about market positioning. I heard that, Vint called from across the room, where he was holding court with a group of fashion executives who looked genuinely interested in whatever he was saying. And for your information, market positioning is crucial to brand identity. Someone has to think strategically around here. You're doing great, Vint, Nathan said dryly, appearing with champagne flutes. Very strategic, very business. Thank you. Finally, someone who appreciates my contributions. I was being sarcastic. I choose to interpret it as sincere. That's called positive mindset reframing. It's in Chapter 7 of Corporate Success Through Psychological Resilience. You made that book up. The principles are still valid. Hazel appeared, dragging a woman by the hand, one of the models wearing a dress from Indy's collection. Mama,
Miss Caroline says she loves her dress so much she wants to buy 5 more. Can she? Is that allowed? She's very nice and she let me try on her shoes even though they're too big. Caroline, a model Indy recognized from the fitting sessions, smiled apologetically. Sorry, she's very persuasive, but I genuinely do love this dress. The construction is incredible. If you're taking private commissions, she is, Archer interjected smoothly. Contact the studio next week. We'll set up an appointment. He's very good at business, Hazel told Caroline seriously. He learned from Vint. I learned from running a multinational corporation, Archer corrected. Vint says that's basically the same as his consulting work, just with more money and less personality. Across the room, Vint raised his champagne flute in acknowledgement. The evening progressed in a blur of congratulations, business cards, and the kind of networking that Indy had spent 5 years avoiding. But now, with Archer beside her and Hazel safely playing with the children of other pack members in a supervised area, it didn't feel threatening. It felt like building something. Around 9 p.m., Virginia arrived. She swept into the ballroom with the kind of entrance that suggested she'd timed it for maximum impact. Designer dress, not one of Indy's, but close enough in style to show she'd been paying attention. Her hair was different, shorter and somehow more her. She looked radiant, and she was holding hands with a woman who looked at her like she hung the moon. Sorry I'm late, Virginia announced, finding their group near the champagne fountain. Flight from Milan was delayed, but I wanted to make it for at least part of the celebration. She turned to the woman beside her. This is Sophia, my mate. The word landed with casual certainty. No drama, no explanation, just fact. You found your mate, Indy said, genuinely delighted. When? 3 months ago, in Milan. She's a fashion photographer. We met at a shoot, and my wolf recognized her immediately. Virginia smiled at Sophia with unmistakable affection. Turned out running from an arranged mating was the best decision I ever made. Freed me up to find what I actually wanted. Congratulations, Archer said, shaking Sophia's hand. Both of you. Thank you, and congratulations on... Virginia gestured vaguely at Indy, Archer, and Hazel, who had wandered back over to see what was happening. All of this, the mate bond, the adoption, the design studio, the fact that you're not miserable pretending to want to marry me. That too, Archer agreed. Also, I need to steal Indy for a business conversation, Virginia continued. Whitmore Industries wants to discuss a potential manufacturing partnership for your next collection. Higher volume, international distribution, significant investment in your brand growth. Interested? Indy blinked. Yes, maybe? I need to think about... She's interested, Vint announced, materializing beside them like a tiny formal wear-wearing ghost. But any discussion of partnerships goes through me. I'm her business manager. I have a card. He produced a business card from his vest pocket. It was embossed, with gold leaf. Virginia took it, studied it with apparent seriousness. Impressive credentials. Thank you. I've been consulting with Thorne Fashion on market positioning and brand identity synergies. Also, I was named Small Business Consultant of the Quarter by Pacific Northwest Business Review. They made up that award, Nathan muttered. They recognize my contributions. There's a difference. They interviewed you because you're a talking wombat in a vest. And I use that platform to deliver insights on leveraging unconventional brand ambassadors in luxury markets. Opportunities are opportunities. Virginia was trying not to laugh. I like him. Sophia, we should hire him. We absolutely should not, Sophia said, but she was smiling. We already have 12 consultants. None of them are wombats. That's true. That's a market gap we haven't addressed. I'm available for limited consulting arrangements, Vince said seriously. My rates are competitive. Well, competitive adjacent. Actually, they're quite high, but worth it. The conversation devolved into Vint explaining his fee structure, while Virginia pretended to take notes, and Sophia openly laughed. Indy felt Archer's hand slip into hers. She looked up at him, her mate, her alpha, her partner in building this impossible life. This is insane, she said quietly. This is perfect, he corrected. 6 months ago I was packing to run, again, for the 5th year in a row, teaching Hazel that home was temporary and trust was dangerous. And now? Now I have a studio,
A team. A wombat consultant with delusions of corporate grandeur. A daughter who's safe and happy. A mate who looks at me like... She stopped, throat tight with emotion. Like you're everything, Archer finished. Because you are. The music shifted. A waltz. Slower than the one they danced at the Halloween gala, but similar enough to be deliberate. Archer offered his hand. Dance with me? Indy took it. Let him lead her onto the dance floor. Let herself be held by someone who wouldn't die protecting her, who wouldn't disappear, who was here, solid and real and hers. Around them, the gala continued. Vint held court with fashion executives. Hazel charmed everyone within a 10-foot radius. Nathan managed logistics with the efficiency of someone who'd accepted that his life now included supernatural events and talking animals in formal wear. Virginia and Sophia danced nearby, lost in each other, a reminder that sometimes the best thing about rejecting what you're supposed to want is finding what you actually need. I love you, Indy said suddenly. I don't say it enough, but I love you. All of this, everything you've built for us. We've built, Archer corrected. Together, that's what mates do. That's what families do. Even ridiculous families with wombat business managers, especially those. The music swelled, the dance continued, and Indy let herself believe what 6 months ago had seemed impossible. She was allowed to stop running. She was allowed to stay. She was allowed to be happy, and judging by the way Archer held her, like she was precious, like she was home, she'd be allowed to keep being happy for a very long time. Possibly forever. Probably forever. Definitely forever. Later that night, they tucked Hazel into bed at midnight, much later than her usual bedtime, but she'd been having too much fun to leave early. Best gala ever, she mumbled, already half asleep. Even better than the one where Daddy's ghost showed up. That's a low bar, Vint observed from his cushion near her bed. He'd removed the top hat, but was still wearing the vest. Most galas don't feature supernatural manifestations and curse-breaking. You're just jealous because nobody commissioned a portrait of you talking to a ghost. I have my own portrait commission, thank you very much. Anderson Thorne himself requested it. For the headquarters lobby, I'm being immortalized in oil paint. You're being painted because you're funny-looking. I'm being painted because I'm an icon of contemporary business innovation. You're a wombat in a vest. I'm a visionary in formal wear. There's a difference. Indy kissed Hazel's forehead, cutting off the argument before it could continue. Sleep. We'll discuss Vint's iconography in the morning. Love you, Mama. Love you, Dad. The words still caught Archer off guard sometimes. Dad. Said so casually, like it had always been true. Like he'd always been hers, and she'd always been his. Love you too, little wolf, he said quietly. Hazel was asleep before they made it to the door. They found Nathan in the living room, having apparently decided to crash on their couch rather than drive home. He'd removed his jacket and tie and was scrolling through his phone with the glazed expression of someone who'd exceeded their social interaction quota for the month. Successful night, he announced without looking up. The collaborative launch is trending on 3 fashion platforms. Indy's designs are being called the future of luxury shifter wear. Anderson Thorne wants to schedule a follow-up meeting next week. Virginia's partnership offer is legitimate and financially sound. Also, someone wants to interview Vint for Entrepreneur magazine. They want to interview me? Vint's voice echoed from Hazel's room because apparently he was still awake and listening. That's excellent. I have thoughts on market disruption I've been wanting to share. You're not disrupting anything, Nathan called back. You're a wombat who sits on a cushion and makes spreadsheets. I'm disrupting traditional paradigms of business consulting accessibility. It's revolutionary. It's ridiculous. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Indy sank onto the couch beside Nathan. Archer settled beside her, his arm automatically wrapping around her shoulders. Thank you, Indy said to Nathan. For everything. For managing tonight. For dealing with Vint's career aspirations. For not abandoning us when things got weird. Things were weird from the moment Archer got hit with a stroller and decided to become obsessed with a seamstress who threw him out of her shop, Nathan said. I'm just along for the ride at this point. Your family, Archer corrected. You stood by me when I walked away from an alliance. You drove me to save my mate. You've accepted that my daughter commands playgrounds and my business manager is a wombat in a vest. That's not along for the ride. That's Pack." Nathan was quiet for a moment, then smiled, genuine and warm. "Pack, I like that." "Good, because you're stuck with us." "Could be worse. At least your pack doesn't have normal problems. Normal is boring." From Hazel's room, "I heard that and I agree. Normal is for people without imagination." "Go to sleep," Indy called. "I'm sleeping. This is sleep talking." "That's not how sleep talking works." "It is if you're creative enough." Archer pulled Indy closer, laughing into her hair. "This is our life now." "I know. A daughter who argues in her sleep, a wombat with a media career, a beta who's accepted supernatural nonsense as routine, a mate who makes dresses people write articles about. Don't forget the ghost who occasionally moves things around the apartment just to remind us he's still watching." This was true. Indy's late husband's presence lingered, gentle, protective, no longer oppressive. He didn't appear anymore, didn't speak, but sometimes candles lit themselves. Sometimes doors opened at convenient moments. Sometimes Hazel would laugh and say, "Daddy moved my toy," and nobody questioned it anymore. He was watching over them, happy they were happy, present without being present. It should have been unsettling. Instead, it felt like a blessing. "Weird family," Indy said. "Best family," Archer corrected. And lying there on the couch, surrounded by the people who'd become her pack, Indy had to agree. She'd spent 5 years running from danger, convinced that stopping meant death. Turned out stopping meant living. And living, with all its chaos and wombats and supernatural manifestations and business partnerships and daughters who commanded playgrounds and mates who looked at her like she hung the moon. Living was so much better than surviving. Living was everything. The end. Indy Voss stopped running. Archer Gray found his mate. Hazel gained a father. Vint got a portrait commission. And they all lived chaotically ever after. And that's how a seamstress who hit an alpha with a stroller ended up with a mate, a family, and a wombat consultant with delusions of corporate grandeur. Indy stopped running. Archer found his fated mate. Hazel gained a father who lets her make anatomically accurate clay wolves. Vint got a portrait commission and a media career. And they all lived chaotically, hilariously, perfectly ever after. Did you love this story? Then smash that like button, share this with your romance-loving friends, and drop a comment below telling me your favorite moment. Was it the Curry attack? The Ferrari crash? Vint in a tiny top hat? I need to know. Your engagement is literally the only way this channel survives. Every like, share, and comment tells YouTube to show these stories to more people who need cozy shifter chaos in their lives. Want more from the Multiverse collection? Check out the playlist for connected stories featuring wolf packs, wombat wisdom, and way too many billionaires who don't know how to drive. Got a story idea? Comment below with your wildest shifter romance prompt. Fated mates who meet at a taxidermy convention? A witch who accidentally turns her boss into a hamster? A dragon who's terrible at flying? DN Leo reads every comment and your ideas inspire future stories. And don't forget that bonus chapter. Vint's job interview. How a Wombat Became Thorn Fashion's Most Expensive Mistake is waiting for you in the description and pinned in the first comment. Trust me, you need to see Anderson Thorn try to fire someone who can't technically be fired because he's a revolutionary paradigm shift in consulting accessibility. Until next time, may your mates be fated. May your wombats be hilarious. May your coffee-stained meet-cutes lead to happily ever afters. And remember, if you hit a billionaire alpha with a stroller, make sure there's a business-savvy wombat inside. It really helps with the negotiations. This is DN Leo signing off. See you in the next story.